here today, so if you can put your phones on vibrate, that would be great. Let's call to order. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the St. Augustine Port, Waterway, and Beach District. Today is June 18th, 2019. I'm Barry Benjamin. All rise for a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary, please call the roll.
Commissioner Benjamin?
Present.
Commissioner Rivers? He did call and say he will be absent. Commissioner Way?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Flowers?
Here. All right. I'd like to call for the Secretary Treasurer's report.
For the city police overtime of the $8,000 budgeted, we have spent to date $1,480. St. Johns County Sheriff's Department overtime of the $20,000 budgeted, we have spent $4,000. Haven't spent anything on the maps. The derelict boats, we spent $9,000 to date. And basically it's the same. The regatta of lights was $3,000. We gave them $3,000, and so the Florida State Board of Administration Fund A, what we have in that account is $22,675. In the Center State operating account, we have $292,204. In the Center State money market account, we have $1,929,775. In the Summer Haven account balance, we have, if we had a balance of $118,839, we received a check of $92,800, which would bring the balance up to $211,639,000. However, $211,639. But we're not sure if we have to give the $92,000 back. So I just put that as going in and coming out. Okay. So also, as our taxes budgeted for the year, which ends in September 30th, was $526,341. That's our budgeted amount. We've received $499,918. We're still expecting $26,423, which we have not received as of yet.
All right. Any questions or anything regarding that? No? Okay. All right. Approval of the minutes. The regular meeting held on May 21st, 2019. Any additions or corrections? If not, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes. Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, approved. Okay, engineering report.
Yeah, a couple things. I'll start with Salt Run. I gave you all an estimate for the solar lights that we can install on top of the pilings. This estimate comes out to $13,103.85. It's based on 13 lights. So there's, from the inlet to the concourse, there's 12 channel markers. Plus, I think there's another post with just a slow speed sign. So this estimate assumes that we would put lights on all those. We haven't had issues with the channel markers east of the concourse, so I did not include those, but there are another 5 channel markers that way. And this particular light, it's very easy to install. Just screw them on top of the pilings. This is the light that the Coast Guard uses for similar types of channel markers.
Is this labor too, or is this just parts?
This is just parts. Taylor Engineering could install these lights in a day, and we can do that under our current annual contract. So it wouldn't require any more funds for the board to approve.
Okay. All right.
Did we have to get any kind of special permission to install them, or we're just good to go?
I will have to fill out a Coast Guard application. And we just have to specify what the lighting characteristics will be, what the blinking patterns will be or whatnot. And if the Coast Guard has any issues with that, then they can alter that. But, I mean, the application is just a 1 or 2 page form, really easy to fill out. We send that down to the Miami district. They get back to us, so it's not a major undertaking.
Can you remind us what the cost of that application process is? Because there is a cost involved, right?
It's probably just, no more than half a day for me to fill out the form, figure out the lighting characteristics. And again, I mean, that's something we can do under our current annual contract.
So there's no application fee involved with that?
No, not that I'm aware of.
That's good.
Anything else?
No, I'm sorry, Mike, when you say the markers east of, are you talking about between the conch house and the boat landing would not be lit?
Right, I mean, we can light those if you want to.
Right.
They're just not included in this estimate, so, and I mean, that's just another 5 markers. We can easily just multiply this unit cost times another 5 markers.
About $1,000 to do per
Roughly,
pile,
right.
got you, okay.
So, I mean, that's a summary, if you have any other
Okay.
questions.
Something we can take under consideration and move on.
Okay, Summerhaven, the contractor is done digging, excavating. He has about another day or two to finish the final grading of the dune behind the current dune, and between the sea goats and the river. Then he just has to get his equipment out of there and restore his access on the west side of the river. So just a couple days more work and to finish that up. We do expect to get the as-built survey sometime this week, so we can figure out what volume of material he has excavated from the river.
What kind of survey was that?
The as-built survey.
As-built survey?
Yeah, that's just the typical jargon we use for the post-construction survey.
Okay, so have you been out there to inspect the work?
I was out there on Friday.
And you said that looked good to you?
Well, they hadn't done any of the final grading on Friday. I plan on heading back out there tomorrow morning to
But that's
look
the
at it.
sand dune, I'm talking about the channel itself.
No, I mean,
I've got aerial pictures, I've got people in kayaks standing on humps in the middle of what's supposed to be a channel. I can bring all those out, or we could perhaps schedule a special meeting, but that project is in serious trouble. There are places where you can't get water over your shoes in what is supposed to be the middle of the channel. About the first third of it looked like it was right. As you move through there, I'll be glad to present the aerials to you now, but the project is in so much trouble that, and if you look at the letter as well from FEMA, it looks like the taxpayers were not even protected. You can't get anything through there at low tide. Would you like to see the pictures, the aerials?
I mean, sure.
But there's just no way, what I'm trying to say is I'd be glad to present those for you right now because there's no way that project's done. If
Right.
they get up and go, whatever the county does at the south end, you've got a big hump in the middle of those 2 projects. The south end of what was supposed to be dredged is nothing but fingers. I've got them on the flash drive if we'd like to present them for the board, if you'd like to look at those.
Yeah.
And when were those aerials taken?
Just this Sunday at low tide.
Right,
It was a daytime low tide.
the contractor, they're not supposed to remove the dredge from the site, until we get that as-built survey done and we can see, what areas might still need to be removed.
I think it'd be great to look at these because they made my mouth fall open.
Yeah,
And like I said,
I've seen them and I agree with you.
I went out there and myself and my neighbor, and I said, okay, well, we looked and, what's it supposed to look like? We have the last permitted drawings. I've got more data coming on this with the coastal engineer, also just giving a free opinion out of it coming up this Friday, but if we could all look at it together, it'd be great.
Sure, I mean,
Miss Elise-
I've looked at it at low tide a couple of weeks ago, and I know what you're talking about. At that time, the dredge was up by the bridge, and they were supposed to come back and hit those high spots as they came back and
That's what
clean
I
it up.
thought, and then like the whole month, I just assumed that he was out there hitting all those things, and I don't think anything happened that month. But if Miss Elise will help me get this in there, I could point them out to you.
Sure.
From the air, it makes a big difference.
Face down or face up?
I think like that. Can't remember.
It doesn't go in, goes into a USB. That is a USB.
Probably only goes in one.
Yeah. That's it. There's a problem with the drive.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
So what you can do is when you click on, these are all images, right?
Right.
Okay, well, that's a
Cutter head dredge, but that's for later. I was gonna.
Okay, starting where?
Yeah, let's go down. Go down. Okay, here we go. I'll start here with a couple somewhere.
Oh, I see.
Any of these down here, just pick it up and see.
And the arrows to go, or just use these arrows if you want to go, just arrows up or down. And that'll make it bigger, smaller.
Miss Linda, what's the name of that bridge right there? That's not the one that goes over the inlet. Summer Haven Bridge?
Summer Haven North.
Summer Haven North Bridge. Okay, so this is the second, the project had three parts, it looked like to me. Around the bend, if you're going north from here, it looked like you got most of the depth, not all of it. Let me see if I can go back and get some, bear with me just a minute here.
Easier for me to look at it. Now it's too.
Okay, here's something. This is the north side of this Summer Haven Bridge.
See, when you're talking, I'm speaking to the microphone.
Oh, excuse me, honey. This is the north side of the Summer Haven Bridge. Now, you'll see that, you see all the things going across the humps, going across the middle? First of all, the main channel there, I could never get to measure 100 foot side to side, and we took out a measuring thing. And if you look at those little humps, I guess that's where the cutter head went around. You know, those are just big sand catchers, and you can stand, I'll show you in a minute, a kayaker standing on those humps so you can see just how shallow they are in the middle of the river. Also, if you look on the last drawings, that channel was supposed to start kind of on the south side of that or the west side of that where it is, but it was supposed to go all the way up to pretty much those docks. And I don't know, Mike, I've noticed this going south and a lot in the intercoastal. It seems like the channel will be like, one side will be shallow and the other side will be deep up to the docks. And one side just stays shallow all the way, like going to Daytona. But here it's right in the middle, and they didn't do much at all, if you can notice, towards the dock. So the equity there is still lost. You can't get into the, now, look at that. That is on the east side of this Summer Haven Bridge. You see all those humps in there? I wish I could make that bigger. Is there a way to do that, Elise?
No, it's your picture.
Okay, it's just what we're going to get. All right, that's the east side. Again, I'm going to show you some kayaking in here. Now this again, back on the north side, which is over where the dredge is now, by that little boat landing, kind of like a boat landing. Look at all those humps there. And again, not going up to the docks at all. Ooh, look at that. Again, you'll see how shallow that is in a minute. You can just see one hump after another.
Excuse me, there should be a way to zoom.
Okay, if you can. You know, that one's big for some reason. I hate to date myself, but
You can zoom it in,
here
but
it
it
is.
might
Okay.
Well, for this one,
Ooh,
it's
All right.
But yeah, we'll leave that up there, and you can just move it to the right if they're smaller.
Okay, gotcha. Let's just page through here to see something. Okay, did that mess up my clicking ability?
No. But you have to put it back I think you have to put it back to the way it was, then you can move the picture. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try that. I'm gonna need some tech help here. I'm not able to click and here.
Head that makes those.
Makes me want to swipe it with my finger, and I know that's wrong. All we did was zoom in.
Yeah, you have to go back to your size.
If you right-click and go to view actual size, it'll,
View actual size, okay. All
There
right,
it is.
that will
Now
help.
you can,
Okay, good.
now
good,
you
good.
can, but you have to put it back to the size that you took the picture of.
I've got a lot more aerials, I just need, all right, here we go, let's do that.
okay.
Thank you, honey, be my tech support person, that really helps, okay. Now, oh gosh, y'all, look at that. That's bad. Now, like I said, when you're in the kayak, it looks deeper than it is. We worked hard to get about 12 inches. We worked hard to get 12 inches, and I'll get to that picture in a minute. Again, this is the east, going, it goes towards the east and then turns south, going towards where the county project's gonna be. Oops, actual size again?
Yeah.
Right click. Okay. You've seen that already. Like I said, all of that was supposed to go over to the, let's show them here. Okay, now, oh, look at the pointer here. So there you go. This, according to the plans, that's not supposed to be there either. And all these docks, and this is actually a dock right here too, they're also, according to the plan, at dead low, supposed to have at least something like 1.5 feet of water.
Here's the same picture.
And
Yeah.
This is what she's talking about.
This is-
Yeah, I actually went out there, I walked that bridge a couple days
Can't
ago.
even see your, I mean, the water doesn't even cover your shoes. I'll show you that in a minute. You know how to get back to that list, so I don't have to show all the pictures, I can go very specifically to.
See, I think we all agree with you, it's a pretty poor job, you
It's
know.
scary, I mean, I do have to say it was a full moon, it actually was a full moon.
Yeah, I have
and-
pretty much, I think, the same pictures that you have. The guy took them with a drone, is that what you have?
Yeah,
From Roy
yeah.
Campbell?
And so, I mean,
Yeah,
right,
and, and we see that it needs to be, relooked at,
okay.
for sure, no doubt.
I can show you some more if you want. I'm
It's-
not great
yeah,
at
It's
it.
pretty obvious. I mean, they're pretty major, ballots in what I can see in this.
And the thing is, when you go around to the north, we just passed, when you go around here and you keep going on to the south there, it's even worse, y'all. I mean, there were people down there walking all the way across it, and it was just ankle water. Let me just show you, there's a little bit better. Hold on, this gives you just a little more here. It just, the further south you go, the worse it gets. I mean, you can see, as you keep going around, it's hard to tell, because I don't have a direct aerial right over that part, but it's just as bad, or even
Yeah.
worse. Look at that, you can't navigate, we couldn't navigate a kayak through it. Even looking at where the current was backing up, Just one, let me try to find one, there she is. See, this is right before the bridge where somebody's supposed to be able to go up to their dock with at least 1.5 feet of water at low tide. Look where her paddle is. I mean, the tip is, she's sitting hard to ground.
Yeah.
How close were these pictures taken to low tide, to dead
We
low?
were, right at low, we went right out at low slack. It was a full moon, and I did check that during the day. You had down 0.46 lower than mean low. So you had a little bit of extra, going down from mean low, not enough to make up the kind of distance. Look at, you could walk, this is, again, this is the part where you're going to connect to what the county's doing. Way to the south there, you walk right all the way across, just splashing your feet in the water. There she is again. Well, that's her deep spot. That's the deepest spot we found. It's up to her knees. She's 5'2". But so you can see me, this is all, even when you find a little ribbon of deep, the rest of it, look at the shallow. Whoo, Lord, that's the south spot right where it's just about to meet up to the county project. She's standing in the middle of what's supposed to be the channel. Okay. I'll stop and I'll come back and do the barge pictures later.
Okay. So obviously, the project's not finished. You know, and if we need to, you know, I'm sure that the dredger would love to see these pictures so he knows what to take care of. I mean, it's you know, it's far from finished.
Okay, a couple things. I will, once we get the as-built survey data in, I can compare that to the permitted template, and we can figure out exactly where they did not dredge down to where they're supposed to. One big source of, I guess, disappointment, misunderstanding that a lot of people have is how deep this river actually is supposed to be. Because the permitted dredging elevations are, you know, they range from -4 feet to -6 feet with respect to the NAVD datum. And on the shelf, you know, on either side of the channel, it's only -2 feet.
Right. Which equates to what? What does the -2
Right, so
or 4
a
and
lot of
6?
people think that -2, -4, -6 means that's how deep it's going to be at
No,
low
I know
tide.
it's not that.
So I think at Matanzas, mean low tide is about -2.5 feet. So during a full moon, you said it was about another half foot lower than average?
Not quite.
Okay, so it's somewhere between,
0.46 was below mean.
all right, so somewhere between -2, -3 feet NAVD is what the water elevation was here at dead low. That means that the shelf, the -2 foot areas, would be exposed. You would see sand.
Okay, what does the -2 foot equate to in actual water depth? What are we supposed to be seeing? -2
So
foot equals,
at an average low tide, that would mean you'd have 6 inches of sand
so
exposed.
that would be 6 inches, what is it equal to in water depth? Because everything says minus here, we'd have no water at all. Okay, so,
That's what
Yeah.
it's, so if it's normally -4, right? Then, or if it's dredged at the -4 and then Matanzas is average is -2.5, that means in the -4, you'd have -1.5.
I'm just trying to,
1.5 feet of
I
water.
think,
right, that's what I'm trying to get you to tell me. How, 1.5, 18 inches of water is what I thought, you know, that equates to. Is that correct? At mean low tide?
well, okay, so I mean low tide, your -4 foot channel sections would have 1.5 feet of water. Your
1.5, okay.
Your -6 feet sections would have 3.5 feet of water.
3.5.
I think high tide is around 1.5, 1.6 feet above NAVD, so there's about a 4.5 foot tidal range.
And the -2 is equal to 6 inches of water?
Mean low would be, no, I mean 6 inches
Sand.
of sand exposed, so no water.
So -4 is 1.5, correct?
Right.
And -2 is 6 inches of sand above the water.
That's 6-inch tall sandbar.
Plus 0.5, yeah.
So everywhere that said, at least, we should have at least 1.5 feet everywhere it said -4, and 3.5 feet everywhere it said -6.
Correct.
So we're not even close. And it's a lot of, it's 2/3 of the area. So what do we do? When are they going to do the as-built survey?
They have part of it done. They're trying to get the rest of it done this week. Then, you know, then we can really take a look at it and have actual data to look at. And I can pick out the areas that, you know, are definitely above what they're supposed to be at. Keep in mind too that, you know, we didn't get as much money as we needed to get this project done 100%. We thought we were going to get pretty close with what we had, but we didn't have all that we needed. When we got the $450,000 from the state, we actually requested $600,000, I believe, and they gave us $450,000. So, we're working with the money that we have and not exactly what we wanted to have to finish this 100%. So,
No, but not
areas-
finish, not do, I mean, the whole thing is to not, if we have this huge hump in the middle. I mean, why
Well,
would
if
we,
there's- if
if we didn't have the money to do, I don't mean to be, harassing you at all, but I mean, that's why we hire engineers. If we can't do it for 2.8 million or whatever, why would we do 2/3 of it? Why would we do that?
I mean, if there's humps in the middle of the river, like large sandbars, I mean, those are not supposed to be there. Those were supposed to be removed. What we're doing now, they were supposed to create a channel,
Right.
not with large humps in it. So, I mean, that's something we'll look at with the as-built survey.
Who's doing the as-built survey? Not the dredger.
DeGrove Surveying, they are a subcontractor to Turnbull.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, in light of this FEMA letter, which for the general public indicates here that the $92,000 FEMA gave us to try to make up for the damage from Irma, that they're going to take it back from us because basically two contracting errors. One is a lack of a proper inspection, and one is Mr. Turnbull did not get insurance on this project for natural disasters that's required by the contract. I mean, if that's required by the contract, why didn't you get insurance? And that's why we're being denied?
It's not clear from the letter why it's being denied, except that the contractors, one of the points was that the contractors' bills didn't distinguish between the original work and the repair work. So they said they couldn't quantify the repair work. And the other was that the contract did not contain a force majeure or act of God type clause in it, so it was unclear who was responsible in the case of damage.
But the contract does actually have that clause.
It's got, yeah, there is insurance and there is a clause in the contract. I haven't looked at it very, very closely, but
Well, it looks like the FEMA people have, because they're telling us here, as far as I can tell, that Mr. Turnbull was required to purchase insurance for natural disasters to cover
it
damage.
had insurance.
Okay, so if according to them, he did not, and that either way, they're saying that he's legally responsible for replacing what was damaged because he was required to hold that insurance.
That's their position.
So do we go to his insurance? I mean, how are we going to finish this project now that the money's all gone?
The insurance is there, we could make a claim against the insurance.
And what about the inspection that did not occur? That was on behalf of Taylor Engineering? You guys didn't do an inspection or something?
Well, we were not at the point in the project where we would do that inspection. That inspection would entail like the as-built survey. So we were not quite done, so we didn't do that. What FEMA's saying is that because that wasn't done, because there's no documentation of what the contractor did immediately before the storm, they're denying us. So when you have a hurricane coming, you don't have much time to get a survey.
No, I would
out
think
there
all
and
these were
all
done
this stuff.
way ahead of time in contracts and making sure if he's responsible. In other words, if he was supposed to have insurance to cover that natural disaster while he was working out there, why are we applying to FEMA? We have insurance to cover it. That's just odd to me.
Claim against insurance, it doesn't mean they're going to pay it.
Okay.
But either way, it's his responsibility. Like, whether or not his insurance reimburses him kind of doesn't matter to us, right? He's on the hook for it under the terms of the contract. The force majeure clause, according to FEMA's interpretation, only gets him out of delay. It does not get him out of overall responsibility. Is that right? Can we actually, speaking of that, could we take a look at that contract? Do any of y'all have access to that so that we can read it?
Yeah, the actual language in the contract says, contractor is not responsible for delay or failure of performance of the project due to acts of God, severe weather.
Okay.
FEMA seems to be focusing on only the delay part, not the failure of performance.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is...
So that'll be the basis of any appeal you make to FEMA then, that they misread or misinterpreted that clause of the contract then? Okay.
Yeah.
So they didn't catch any of this till after they'd already issued the check?
Well, the check came from the state, the letter of denial came from FEMA.
I'm gonna go with the state.
Pardon?
Let's go with the state.
Yeah, FEMA went through a pretty rigorous review process, a multi-step review process to approve the $93,000. Then once that money is obligated by FEMA, it goes through the state, and the state processes all the FEMA funds. So despite all that happening, other FEMA staff were going down another road, and they don't talk to each other internally. So FEMA approved the money, wrote the check. They didn't send us a letter of denial until May 21st was the date on the letter. So January of this year is when they told us the money was obligated, and Elise and I had a teleconference with FEMA, and we started processing the grant agreement.
Yeah, the check was
So-
issued June 4th.
And we've deposited that check?
Yeah, we deposited the check. But it's kind of a mess.
So the issue is, the Port District can cash the check, spend the money. The issue is if FEMA conducts an audit and figures all this out, that they weren't supposed to give us the money, then they can demand it back.
How does the money work? When you said the state sent you a check, was it on a,
It's from the Florida Department of Emergency Management.
is that
That's
connected?
FEMA, that's FEMA money.
Okay.
It's federal money. Comes from the state, though.
Well, when do you think the judge can start working on those humps? He's not going to take it away, is he, anytime soon?
No, it's still on site, and really, we need that as-built survey so we can come up with a good plan and tell him exactly where he would need to go.
And they're going to try to finish that into next week? Is that what you were saying about?
Survey that they're trying to finish that this week.
This week, okay.
That's trying to. I can't tell you that they will do that.
And then as soon as they finish that, then they'll say, this is not done, or what have you, and Mr. Turnbull will be obligated to go back out there and finish the dredging for no additional monies?
That area is kind of gray. Because, as I mentioned, we're working with the budget that we had. So, if there's some areas that are, blatant sandbars, 3 feet tall in the middle of the river, yes, he should have removed that. He'd be liable for that. If there's areas where, it's 6 inches above the template, and maybe he didn't get exactly 100 feet wide, well, we didn't have all the money that we needed for him to do it perfectly. And the money he's working with now, there was a certain volume that he said he can get with that. I think it was about 45 to 48,000 cubic yards. The as-built survey will tell us exactly how much he dredged out too. So, if he dredged out 55,000 cubic yards, then his position will be that, well, we did way more than what we said we were going to do with this money.
Mr. Mike, I am not comfortable with one of Mr. Turnbull's employees or subcontractors doing this survey for him. He's got somebody that he pays who is going to determine whether or not he did a good job. And then we're all walking away from it and they've got no current back. It's just about $2.8 million down the toilet. Is there any other way that we can get somebody else to do this survey? An objective party?
Seems like it's a conflict of interest.
It's done routinely on dredging projects. It's a Florida licensed surveyor. We can pay for another survey. There's no way to get it done without paying for it.
If paying for an objective survey, I would make a motion to try to do something like that, but it need to be somebody that is not associated, and we'd have to know that. Because this whole thing doesn't look good to me. And I went out and looked at that equipment, and it was sad. I'm just saying. There's some reason this didn't get finished.
When that as-built report is done, will Taylor Engineering review it to verify that it's accurate?
Yeah, so we did, before the project, we conducted an independent survey. Morgan and Eklund is a subcontractor, surveyor we use all the time. So we would compare this survey to that one, make sure, it's matching up in areas that were not disturbed. I mean, that's one way to just quality check it. So we do,
After the as-built is done, Taylor Engineering is going to review it and advise the board as to where the deficiencies are?
yes, and part of the, project completion report that we have to send to DEP is, typically if the project isn't constructed according to the permit, according to the construction plans, we have to identify what areas are out of compliance or what areas we had to tweak a little bit during construction. So, we do have to identify all those areas. So that's something that would be included in that project completion report we send to DEP. So, it's something we have to do anyways.
Well, and maybe what we do is we wait to see the report, have Taylor review it, and then come back to us.
Are we holding some money back?
Yes, they have $98,119 that they have not invoiced us for.
Okay. Certainly wouldn't want to pay them that until after everything's done.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that. So the as-built survey is going to be done potentially by the end of this week,
Hopefully.
and y'all will be done reviewing it the end of next week. When will Taylor sort of complete its involvement in that survey work?
The surveyors typically take, a week, sometimes 2 weeks to process the survey data and make that available. So best case scenario is we get it sometime next week, more likely the following week.
Right.
Hopefully sometime next week.
I ask because, we don't meet again for another month, and in the meantime, he's going to pull that dredge boat out one way or the other, right? He's not going to leave it there until our next meeting.
Could we do a special meeting in a week? Just to meet about this project? Is that possible?
Yeah, I'd be in favor of that.
Yeah, that's fine.
You can't just have a meeting. You have to get an ad in the paper, and you have to have...
7 days advance notice?
Why don't you wait until you have survey results, and you can have a meeting?
Okay.
Well, not only the survey result, but what's Taylor's opinion of that
Right.
report. Without both of those, I don't know.
You're still 3 weeks out. You're still 3 weeks out then,
Yeah.
at least, so you won't have any conclusive evidence until the next meeting.
Is there anything in the contract that, I know that the NAB datum and stuff, I have to deal with that a little bit too. And is there anything ever in there where they're going to tell you how deep and how wide a channel's going to be? I mean, it seems to me that would be something that I would, I don't want to know all about the NAB stuff. I want to know how deep it's going to be and how wide it's going to be at certain locations. I don't...
The contract requires them to, at least at the start of this project, to construct the project according to the permit drawings or their construction plans. And, dredging isn't exactly accurate, so we usually specify a tolerance. I think this project had a 1 foot tolerance, so if your dredge elevation is -6, the acceptable limit is -5 to -7. So I mean, that's pretty typical of dredging projects.
Okay.
Looks like we can't do too much until we have the as-built, and then your review of it.
If you get that to us in as quickly as possible, we can schedule a special meeting in just 7 days
Right.
from that.
And maybe get confirmation that the dredge won't be moved until it's been resolved. That might be a...
Well, we still got $98,000 of his money, so he can bring it back for $98,000.
But still,
Yeah.
I know in marine contracting, don't believe anything until you see the barge. So-
Is that the same barge that's going to be doing the county project just to the south?
No,
Oh, okay.
that's a very large dredge.
Oh, that must be nice.
Okay. Sandy?
Oh,
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate for a member of the public to speak now on this topic or wait till the public time?
No, come on up. Yep. You guys have firsthand information. You're right on the spot.
Yeah, this is our friends in the Summerhaven River. My head is spinning right now. First of all, let me start by saying that after 11 years, we're still, the Friends, very grateful to the port for sticking with us. We came to you all after 2008 breach. You agreed to hold the permit if we got the financing. We've gotten over $3 million in financing. At the meeting last month, I'm sorry, I thought we had $125,000 in the account, plus 92 coming from FEMA, and I understood that that would be enough to finish the project as designed. We heard 118,000 today. I heard maybe 90-something due to Turnbull, so I guess the 92 comes out of the 118, and we don't really have 118.
No, you have, no, 118 is without the 92.
Yes.
Right.
But if you pay the 92, it reduces, or is the 92 already out?
You're talking about the 98.
Okay.
It's due to Turnbull. Okay.
98,000?
Okay, well then let me just take you back to the last meeting. I was grateful then, I'm grateful now. But in the last meeting, I heard it was fully funded and that they're going to finish the project as designed. And I was concerned that with the amount of shallowness I saw in the river, that I didn't see how they could finish it in a short amount of time as was indicated. I think the indication was about 3 weeks. And so I asked if we could have a meeting, and I asked Taylor Engineering and I asked Turnbull and other members of the Friends, because I'm concerned over the visible depth at low tide. And if you remember, the last meeting was on a Tuesday, as we always are. It was followed by Monday, which was Labor Day. So we weren't able to hold the meeting until June the 3rd, which was 2 weeks ago yesterday. And I'd ask that I be corrected if I misstate something, but at that meeting, what I heard was that there was no money left in the Summer Haven account, $5,000 maybe, and $92,000 promised by FEMA had been denied, verbally or by email. So basically, the project was out of money. And I said, well, it doesn't look like it's 4 feet at mean low water or 6 feet at mean low water, and that's when I learned about NAVD, and that 4 feet really means 1.5 feet, and 6 feet really means 3.5 feet. And it's a bitter disappointment. I did ask Taylor at that point for a budget, even though we didn't have the money, for what it would cost to finish the project the way we understood it was going to be. A navigable river, the appropriate amount of sea oak planting, sand fencing, perhaps a reserve to cover future breaches, and closing the construction entrances, whatever it would be that would assure the integrity of the dune and the navigability of the river. I asked for that, I haven't gotten it. Mike and I have exchanged emails about the cost of what it would cost to plant, but I suggest to you that the planting is one part of a whole picture. There should be planting, there should be sand fencing. It'd be nice if there was a navigable river at low tide and a contingency. All of that said, I would ask that you not wait until we get an as-built and argue over that, but that you advance the money, the $93,000 that's in dispute from FEMA. Let the project continue. Let the plants be bought, the sand fencing be bought and installed. Let the as-built play out, and let's see where we are. Hopefully you'll keep the 93 that FEMA gave you, or you'll win on appeal. Worst case, you will have invested $93,000 in a $3.3 million project that is at risk if you don't. And I would respectfully request that. I think it's important to the reputation of all of us, the port, the Friends, Taylor, Turnbull. I kind of jumped up in front of everybody because I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut, but let me finish by just running some dollar figures by you. When this first started, we got $400,000, we the Friends, got $400,000 from the state for permitting, and we got $2.9 million to fund the contract as designed and bid out. All along, we have asked, how are we doing, what can we do? We're not involved in the process, but if you need money, we'll try to get money. There was one point, there was some question about funding the planting on the dunes. The Friends advanced, out of our own pockets, over $100,000, and we planted the plants that we bought for $100,000. So I would ask that you think about advancing the 93. At any point, we would have been happy to go back to the state or wherever we could to get money. When there was the damages by Matthew, we worked hard with the county and got them, with the assistance of a lot of people, to pay early the $352,000 plus that the port had spent on their behalf to close the Matthew breach. When there was the Irma risk, we sat down with Taylor, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll be in the ballpark, I think. The calculated damages to this project from Irma were like $691,000. The Friends said, whoa, that's a lot of money, and we can't wait on FEMA. We'll go to the state and see what we can get. Well, we went to the state, and we got $450,000 from the state. So that left us short $241,000, of which this 92 was a part. So the 92 that FEMA agreed to pay is a small part of the 691 claim. So we've done what we can. We're happy to try to do more, but we're out of time. By the way, my understanding is that barge is being pulled out today, dredge is being pulled out today.
Today.
That's my understanding. May not be true. I didn't hear it firsthand, but it's in Granny's Hold, and I understand that it is being removed today.
Alice, I did talk to Rich Turnbull before this meeting, and he did not tell me that. I asked him if it was going to stay on site until the as-built survey, and he said yes.
The man that owns the dredge told me it was being pulled out today. It may not be.
Okay.
I don't know if
I can't tell you what's right or wrong. I'm just telling you what I heard.
I can't either.
Well, that's interesting to know that, Mike, that he's telling you that, though. Mr. Turnbull.
The more you delay, the more it's going to cost. There are little things like the bird monitors and the turtle monitors. The project pays them every day. If you stop them, then you have to pay them $10 days worth of their services just to get them to restart, and you get no credit for that. It's like a
Ellis, do you have any idea about how long it's been since the dredge was dredging?
I was dredging last week or so.
It was still dredging last week, okay. Just stop, okay. Mike, is there any way to move forward in the manner that he's mentioning, that we could take reserve funds and just go ahead and continue, because time is of the essence with storm season on us? And
Yes, if the Port District votes to, spend more money on this, that we absolutely can do that.
would that be going to Mr. Turnbull? I mean, I can't imagine giving him more money to keep doing a project he left like that.
Whether you like it or not is really the only way to keep going. It's to get another contractor on site. I mean, you'd have to bid this out. They'd have to mobilize. Like, mobilization is a big expense. So, I mean, they have their equipment there. So really, it is the only way to get this done, is to have him keep working out there.
Would it require a permit change as well?
No, we're good on permitting.
But you would have to do a public, a bidding?
If you were to go with a different contractor.
Anybody different than Turnbull?
Right.
Well, it's at $92,000. You said there's things that still have to be done. Does any of that involve dredging? I mean, obviously, there's dredging needs to be done, but you're assuming that they did what they were supposed to.
Well, let me tell you again, this is part of me not really understand. My father always said, if you don't understand it, you shouldn't try to explain it. I won't try to explain it. But here's the picture as I see it. Somehow or another, there was a vibrant river that flowed 6 to 8 feet deep at low tide. It filled in with sand. We started this project and said, what can we do to restore the river? We saw a set of plans that said 4 to 6 feet, -4 to -6 at mean low water. Sounds good to us. That's about what we had before. We thought we were having a restoration, and we're not. -4, -6 doesn't really mean that. And, we weren't in the business of hiring consultants or anything. We're working with the port and Taylor Engineering, and somehow we have a river that, if it meets the as-built, won't be navigable at low tide.
Can I jump in here again? Just to provide you some more information on the permitted dredge depths. When DEP permits a project, they have to make sure that they're only allowing beach-compatible sand to be put on the beach. So they demand that there's a 2-foot buffer of beach-compatible sand beneath your permitted dredge depth. So let's just say if the dredge depths were -6, or the river depths were -6 to -8, and at the bottom of the river was muck, silty sand that can't go on the beach. Well, DEP is only, so before the beach, the river depths were -6 to -8 feet deep. The river fills in, but now DEP will only permit dredging down to -4 to -6 because they make sure that there's a 2-foot buffer of sand there that you can't touch, that you can't get into. So, that's one reason why the permitted dredge depths are shallower than what the river used to be.
So there's the NAVD thing, and there's the compatible sand buffer, and the -4 to -6 really doesn't mean -4 to -6. I don't dispute that. I woke up to that 2 weeks ago today.
With the money that the state gave us, if we use that money, then there's a chance that, you're saying if they do an audit, then they may come back to us?
The $93,000, right. If FEMA, the state's just kind of the middleman here between you and FEMA. So if FEMA does the audit, then yes, they can demand that money back.
From us or the state? The state gave it to us.
Well, the $450,000, no, that's a state grant. That's yours, you don't have to give that back. And that's what we've been using for construction to date. So that money is essentially spent, except for those $98,000 that they have not invoices for yet.
Well, the way I see it is that I think we should supply them the money to keep going, and then if we get dinged somehow, we've got a $1.9 million money market account for just these kind of emergencies. I don't know, that's just my thought on it. And this thing needs to be done right, and regardless of what Ellis is talking to us about, I can assure you there's going to be fur flying when that report comes back in those water depths. Because if you can walk across that thing in ankle deep water all the way across, and they're going to say, no, that's fine. I'm just telling you, there's a battle royal coming over that. I guarantee it.
Mr. Way, is there some way you can figure that we could document what we've been left here and supposedly is the done work, and yet still pay Mr. Turnbull to go and attack it aggressively? I'm all for whatever it takes to fix this because so much is at stake.
Yeah, Ellis, the $92,000, can it be quantified on what that's supposed to be, what's supposed to be done with that money if we release it?
I think it can be quantified, and we've asked Taylor Engineering to do that.
We do have some ballpark costs.
Okay, and I would suggest going forward that it's very uncomfortable for us as citizens in a private-public partnership with it to be trying to put pressure or make requests on the port's engineer. We would like to have at least one member of the port perform that role. We'll assist in whatever way we can, but...
Well, if you could quantify where you want that money to be spent?
I've given the high points to Mike. We haven't had a chance to talk about it.
Okay.
But there are high points. But I would like to know what it would cost to get this project done the way it should be done. It may be more than 92, it may be less than 92.
Yeah,
We'd
well,
like-
that dredging part, that's to be determined, because there's going to be a major battle over that. But that aside, I mean, as if we take the 92 and push it forward, can we designate what that money can and cannot be spent on?
Absolutely you can.
Okay, then if,
As long as it's within the Summerhaven River project permit.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, I'm good with that. I don't know about the rest of the board, but.
Have the money for it?
Yes.
Okay.
And as long as I can show the auditors, which I just am finishing up an audit that they went through a lot of the Summerhaven stuff for. Yeah, as long as I can show them where the 92,000 came from, which I have, what the 92,000 is going to be spent on, because it's really designated for Summerhaven. So basically what you're doing is, if FEMA were to call us up and say,
Yep.
give it back, we have to take it out of our account and give it back to them.
Yeah, but that could take years and years.
And sure it can, and by then we might not have the money, so you never know.
I'd like to make a motion that we just, advance the $92,000 and hope for the best.
It's in their account right now.
We got the money, let's do it.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, done.
Seconded that?
I did.
Chris,
Mike, one more question on this. When Ellis had first brought this up, this south end, that seems to be the worst that's left, you had mentioned that if we wanted to do that according to the plan, it would take an extra pump. Well, I mean, maybe that's why it's been left like this. He doesn't have this extra pump, and what are our assurances that if he moves forward and gets paid to complete it, we'll have to know he's going to bring in the material, the machinery to do it correctly. Do you remember that conversation coming up with?
You're talking about the north end.
Oh, the north end? Okay, I'm sorry, I thought this was about the south end. Okay.
Right,
As far as you know, he has the machinery he needs to finish that all the way to the south line where the county picks up.
I mean, yeah, the area
Right.
he's dredged in the last, this year, I mean, he can get back to that entire area.
Right, okay, because I wouldn't want to pay him more just to get the same result. And also, Mr. Ellis and Miss Linda, of the 118, and you're talking about possibly he has 98 billed, but we haven't paid yet, that still leaves $20,000.
Yeah, let me give you those numbers.
Okay,
So, there's 118,839 left in the Summerhaven budget. 98,119 is contracted to Turnbull. $6,610 is still in Taylor Engineering's budget, and that's for, mainly is going to go towards the monitoring we have to do out at Bird Island, MSA 233, the least turn nesting mitigation area, because we still have to coordinate with FWC and USDA probably through mid-August. USDA, the maximum they can bill us for this year is $10,211. I'm hoping their cost is more like $8,000 or $9,000.
so that $20,000 extra that I was thinking could go into the fencing and the planting is not actually there.
There's about $4,000 that's currently not contracted to anybody out of the $118,000.
Is there anything you could do with that, towards that sand, that big, I'm assuming you're talking about that long sand dune where y'all do the plantings, is that what you're talking about?
He's talking about, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Linda again, Friends of the Summerhaven River. We also had to provide a mitigation island. It's a little bit, it's west of the Intercoastal. Fort Matanzas, it sits to the west of the Intercoastal over there. And we, the Friends, got that island released through the Florida Inland Navigation District, and it has to be maintained for birds as well. We were required to flatten it, put in bird collars, put up predator fencing, and that had to be maintained for 3 years, is that correct?
That's correct.
And this is the 3rd year. But that, we've spent a lot of money on bird habitat, a lot of money. So that's what that is. It's not our dune.
Okay.
And I just had a couple things I wanted to say. First of all, I appreciate the commissioners coming down to Summerhaven to look at this project. We wanted you to see firsthand, why we needed this $92,000. The dune is just sitting there. It's a substantial dune. It's wonderful. We're very happy with that. We feel like, it's really going to be great for protection, but it's unplanted, and it's a waste of money to just let it sit there. And also to tidy up that river and get rid of that sand that, we talked a little bit about the sides and that, they might be above at low tide, but the main channel is still clogged, really clogged. And we appreciate you coming down to look at that. And I know Commissioner Rivers was down, Commissioner Way, Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Flowers, and I know that Commissioner Benjamin has reviewed the drone footage that one of our members did. But anyhow, I just wanted to let you know we appreciate you coming down to look at it. And the question that I have for Mike is, when we thought Turnbull was leaving and heard that they were just pulling out, we talked a little bit to Dr. Dredge, who has, a dredging company, different size dredges and so forth, and asked him, would you be interested in cleaning up these high spots? Now, is there a way that he could operate as like a subcontractor to Turnbull to do that work?
Yeah, he was originally Turnbull's subcontractor.
Right.
So, yes, he could do that.
Okay. So if he was willing to bring his other dredge, or even the same dredge or whatever, but I know he has a different one, and that's the one. Terry, did you know about that?
I don't know the details.
Okay. Anyhow, there's another dredge besides the current one.
I know he has a smaller one, which we wouldn't want to use.
Okay. Well, anyhow, I'm just putting that out there because when we thought Turnbull was gone, we said, well, this is a mess and we've got to see what we can do about this. And so, we said maybe, and so Jay actually talked to him, I believe. And he said, he would be interested.
Perhaps we could contract directly with him, with Dr. Dredge?
That would be a...
I think that's what we recall. You'd have to bid it out and change the permit, not rent.
Right, I think you would you have to work under your current contract.
Okay.
So, you can modify that with a change order, and, he is Turnbull's subcontractor, so, we do have to coordinate with Turnbull, but we could just coordinate with Turnbull and through a change order give Turnbull a certain amount of money, and he could direct that to Dr. Dredge if that's the plan we want to, proceed with.
Well, if that could be done on an expedited basis, that might solve all the issues. If there's no publication, no bidding, none of that, that would be worth considering.
Today's Tuesday. Mike, do you think by Friday you could get back to us at the port with some options?
Sure. I can do that.
What's the most important, getting the sand out or getting the dune planted? Both?
They're both. We're in
Yesterday.
hurricane season.
Right.
And we have an unnavigable
Both.
river, so it's both. In fairness to Mike, and I've seen this, when Commissioner Dixon was here, he sort of was the lead, he was the point person for the port for this project. And we need a point person that can work with Mike and work with us, and we'd like to be involved because at this point, I think we have some good ideas, we can offer some good input, and we'd prefer that the money be spent really wisely, as you say.
My concern is is the 92,000 going to get us to anywhere near the state of completion?
I think, Taylor says they are working up a budget of what it would cost to get this thing where it should be.
That'd be good. If we could by Friday, what's it going to cost us? How we could move forward?
I won't have the numbers of how much it would cost to get this done, 100%, because I can't just look at aerials and figure that out. I have to look at the actual survey data.
Right.
But I can
Well, since we know, at least from the pictures what we're looking at, that we are woefully behind, if anything that we can do, or that you can do just to get Mr. Dredge out there and get it going again would be helpful, because, I mean, even without this study, we certainly we know that we're in trouble, and it'd be nice if he'd just keep dredging.
Right, I can coordinate with Ellis, and we can figure out how we want to spend that $93,000. Sand fencing is probably in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. A 20-foot wide swath of sea oats would run about $21,000. So just to give you a ballpark of, what we're looking at, we can meet on site and try to figure out what we want to do.
I'm not real comfortable on getting these two dredgers, because you're going to get one guy's going to say, well, it's not part of my deal, I want more money, the other guy didn't do this right. What do you think about that, Mike? It's like you get two car mechanics, one guy's going to say, I did this, and the other guy did this wrong, and then it's going to cost you a whole bunch more money.
It's kind of a wild card dealing with Dr. Dredge right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we don't know what costs he'll throw at us. We've been working with Turnbull. We know what his unit costs are, and I can easily have a conversation with him and say, okay, how much more sand can you dig out of the river for $50,000? What can we do with $50,000? And I can get a straightforward answer from Turnbull.
Could you ask the same question of Dr. Dredge or somebody else, and just see sort of a comparison bid basis?
Yes, I can do that.
I mean, I don't know. I just, I worry sometimes that, Dr. Dredge that Turnbull has been on this project longer than they anticipated. They've got other irons in the fire, and it's sort of project fatigue. That may not be right, but I just worry about it. They may be happy to get off.
I think everyone's fatigued, but I know Turnbull is willing to keep on working on this project. He has told me that.
Okay.
So.
Sooner than later would be nice, that's all.
Well, if you all could let Mike or one of us know who we should call on the port as a contact person, that would be good.
Okay.
And thank you very much for your support and your vote, and then 92 and change. We'll call it 93. Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Any more engineering?
You asked me to look into the May Street boat ramp. That's the first item under old business. So
okay, I think before we go into old business, we have, I'm going to switch this around a little bit. New business, because we have the Long Beach project with Jason of the U.S. Corps of Engineers. I'll get him going for a little while.
I'm going to have to apologize for the technology difficulties. There's not an HDMI cable on this computer, so we're going to have to somewhat go old school, I guess I would say. As I said, I haven't used one of these since science class in about 7th grade, so bear with me here. Let's see here. Hopefully everybody can see that okay. I have one extra copy for Commissioner Woody. I'll provide it to the other board members.
Thank you.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Jason Harrah, Project Manager with the Army Corps of Engineers in Jacksonville, Florida. I have the luxury to represent St. Johns County on various projects we'll talk about today, to include St. Augustine Inlet, as well as beach projects and navigation projects in Duval County, Jacksonville Port Authority, all the way down through Daytona Beach. So today I want to present to you several various projects we have going on in St. Johns County. So the first thing to present is, just real quickly for the new board members, just a quick history, I guess, on the St. Augustine Harbor O&M. The Corps is authorized. We have a project that consists of a channel that's 16 feet deep by 200 feet long that basically goes against the best natural alignment basically through the inlet, and then it gets to 12 feet deep as it ties into the intercoastal waterway. We do surveys, hydrographic surveys with our own core vessels every single year to see what that natural maintained depth is. And in the event we have a substantial quantity that needs dredged, we come in with our annual federal appropriations, it's 100% federal, and remove that sand, either placing it in the near shore that will allow it to work on adjacent beaches, or we actually place it on beaches as we've done after Hurricane Matthew. An interesting thing that I was not completely aware of that I found doing the research, we also have an authorized project in the San Sebastian River for the intercoastal waterway. You can see where my finger is in red, goes to the King Street Bridge, all the way on the San Sebastian River, and that is a 10-foot deep channel, 100 feet wide, to King Street Bridge with a turning place near the upper end. So I was not completely aware of that. I had to get into some of our ancient archives to find that. The last time we constructed that project was 1954. But in the event that any of the board members, local maritime police, etc., find issues where they're hitting bottom in that area, just for future reference, all it requires is a phone call from me. We will go out and do a survey. The surveys are easy to do. However, if we want to do construction there, we have to seek those appropriations in the annual president's budget. That's a little bit more challenging, but we will seek those appropriations as needed. Okay. This is just a real quick cross-sectional area showing the project. The width is 200 feet as shown on the graphic. The channel is 16 feet deep. The side slopes are 1-on-3 on both sides throughout the inlet. And we do have about a 2 feet over depth that we dredge. So we actually dredge it down to 18 feet for that 16-foot channel. And again, we do that about every 3 years. We can do it sooner if the surveys indicate that it needs to be done. Before I get into the Villano project, I just want to mention a couple other things that we have going on in St. Johns County. At the request of the City of St. Augustine and the Mayor, we are moving forward with congressional funding to do a complete flooding study of the City of St. Augustine and the adjacent Back Bay. Once that funding is appropriated, hopefully this fall, that study will look at additional pump stations, seawalls, tidal gates, etc. throughout the entire City of St. Augustine to not only address the storm surge we saw from Matthew, but to also look at sea level rise impacts, etc. So we're waiting on those appropriations to come sometime this fall. That study will take about 2 to 3 years to complete. As you can imagine, there's a lot of cultural resources, etc. we have to go through with any kind of recommended plan we develop. But ultimately, that study will take probably to 2022, 23 to get the final recommendation of what we want to do. So it's just a pretty big study that we'll be hopefully kicking off this fall. The local sponsor for that is the City of St. Augustine. We're talking about Villano today, which our project goes up to the north to Serenata Drive, for those that are familiar with Villano, South Ponte Vedra. We are seeking additional federal appropriations to do a study from Serenata Drive all the way up to the Duval County line for additional beach renourishment. When we did this original study, we hadn't had Hurricane Matthew or Irma, so the damage elements that we were looking at when we look at these, what kind of historic storms have hit the beach, we were using Hurricane Dora. That was the storm of record at the time that we used. Now we have Matthew, we even have Irma that we can put into our model, our storm suite, and pound the beach with those storms and see if we can get additional sections of beach included in beach renourishment in the future. So again, we're waiting on appropriations to do that, what we call the North Ponte Vedra feasibility study. Porpoise Point is the third one I want to mention. That is a continuing authorities program study. For the board, if you ever elect, you want to get a quick briefing on continuing authorities. That's a program the Corps of Engineers has throughout the nation that's projects between $5 to $15 million. Local sponsors can reach out to the Corps and say, hey, we have this drainage problem, we have this inlet problem, we would like the Corps to come in and take a look at that. It takes a letter from you. We do a series of federal interest determinations, etc., but there is a cost share component to that, 50-50, 65-35, for any of those small drainage projects you may like us to look at. We have a person in Jacksonville District that's all they do is continuing authorities program. They'd be more than happy to come down anytime you want for a briefing on that. So those are the three projects. The flooding study in St. Augustine, North Ponte Vedra is going to kick off this fall as well, hopefully, and then Porpoise Point. Ultimately, that will be hopefully looking at some kind of rock revetment or some kind of groin structures to hopefully prevent that sand from continuing to move in and out and threatening a lot of the homes along Porpoise Point Drive. Lastly, the other project we have that's ongoing that many of you may be familiar with is St. Augustine Beach. We've been doing that project since the 90s, putting sand on the beach. We recently completed that in 2018. Looks very good. Just for your reference, the most critical point or the most area that erodes the most of all of St. Augustine Beach is north of the pier, an area right where they put the Embassy Suites. So typically, we renourish that project every 4 to 5 years. We're going to kind of have to, every year we do a monitoring report surveys to kind of monitor how the beach is reacting, how stable it is. So we will be watching that area around the Embassy to see how quickly it erodes now. Before, we didn't have a major structure there with a lot of $400 night rooms, so we could let that kind of come back a little bit before we had to do renourishment. So we will be watching that now to see how closely it comes back and how quickly. So that's all of those projects. Let's talk real quick about the Volano Shore Protection Project that includes a small portion of South Ponte Vedra Beach. This project was authorized. Every project we do, you have to have two to tango. You have to have an authorization by Congress, and you have to have appropriations. Those are the two key factors federally that we have to do and receive to move forward with the project. So this project did get authorized in the Water Resource Development Act of 2018 by Congress. We did receive $36.8 million of federal appropriations, which is the total federal and non-federal amount to do design and construction of the Volano 3-mile project. The project includes basically beach building, 60-foot berm, and a reconstruction of the 2015 dune system that was completely wiped out due to Hurricane Matthew. It also includes vegetation and CO planting in the dune system. The initial sand volume that we're going to place is about 1.3 million cubic yards. The renourishment interval for this one, St. Augustine's every 5 years, Volano's every 12 years. It's not as erosive north of the inlet as it is to the south of the inlet. As I said, 12-year interval, so there's about 3 total that we anticipate over the 50-year life. The Corps looks at all projects in a 50-year prism for economics, environmental, etc. That doesn't mean the project's over in 50 years. That just means we have to relook at it at 50 years to make sure it's still justified. The borrow source, St. Augustine Inlet, and we'll kind of talk about that in a minute. Overall, economically, this project, once constructed, will reduce damages to infrastructure, road, property, utilities by 71% over that 50-year period of analysis. So that's what really sold the project to Congress, hence for the reason that it was authorized. And I'm going fast, trying to make up some time for you guys, so slow me down if you need to. The initial construction cost of the project is roughly, as you can see at the blue line, $26,500,000. The federal share of that is $6 million. Non-federal share is the $20 million. The sponsor does get credit for all the work they have to do to get easements from all those property homeowners. So the ultimate cash contribution is right $19 million. This is a very lopsided cost share. Typically, it's federal 65%, non-fed 35%. So why is it so lopsided? We require that they have adequate parking and access every half mile. So the guy that lives in Utah that comes to the beach once every 25 years that pays taxes, he should be able to park his car, walk out on that portion of the beach that federal taxpayer dollars were spent on, and use that beach. So in areas where they don't have that parking and access, they get points deducted, which is why the cost share is like it is. I will tell you the county's working vigorously to try to improve that, to look at areas that they can add parking, and ultimately that number could fluctuate. The 3 periodic renourishments I mentioned are right at $118 million for a grand total of the project over 50 years of $145 million. Sounds like a lot of money, but when you're providing 71% reduction in future damages to property, environmental restoration, etc., the projects, all these projects have to have a benefit cost ratio of 1 to 1, 1.0 to 1.0. What that means is for every dollar spent by the federal taxpayer, a dollar is returned. This project, even at the cost of $145 million, is right at $2 to 1 that's being spent. So it has a really good benefit cost, again, for all that infrastructure that's being saved in the future. So that's the reason that it was justified. Project vicinity, as I talked about before, let me look at this and make sure I tell you right. To the north of the project, talking range monuments, are 102.5 to 117. So the north end of the project is right at Serenata Drive in South Ponte Vedra, and the south end of the project is right at San Paleo Court. You'll see that there's two little areas here that are dashed and the area that's here that's dashed. What that is, that's a 1,000-foot taper, where we taper the beach back in to connect to existing ground. The reason we do that, we don't want a vertical cut. With a vertical cut, the beach erodes a lot faster than it would without the taper, so we taper that beach back in. Staging areas, just real fast, there will be a few staging areas. The contractor will have an access point at the Reef Restaurant. That will not be a staging area, that will just be for him to access with fuel trucks, etc. There's an area at North Beach Park, which will be a staging area as well. And to the south, Surfside Park, a huge staging area there that will be shut off for the duration of construction. We typically look for places that are owned by the City of St. Augustine or St. Johns County to avoid having to purchase land, etc. So those three access points will be put into the plans and specs. The contractor has the opportunity to use those, or he may say, I don't need all those, I only need one. But we have to give him those access points to bring pipe on the beach, to bring his bulldozers on the beach, to do the grading, etc. Where are we getting the 1.3 million cubic yards of sand? At the gratitude, I guess, of Carl Blow and FIND, they did not see some appropriations that they were trying to get for the intercoastal waterway. We understand based on recent hydrographic surveys, there's about 50,000 cubic yards in the intercoastal waterway north and about 125,000 cubic yards in the intercoastal waterway, this Widener area here, just off of Porpoise Point. Those are two areas that we will dredge as part of this. All that sand is beach compatible. We've already done our geotech analysis, so all that will be placed on the beach. The North Flood Shoal is about 600,000 cubic yards of sand, and the South Flood Shoal is about 900,000 cubic yards of sand. So we believe that within this area here, we'll have enough, all that dredge to be able to put on the beach to meet that 1.3 million yard capacity. However, we took it a step further to buy down risk if we didn't have enough. So we were looking at the Davis Shore Shoal. We completed surveys there as well as geotech. There's plenty of sand out there as well. In discussions with some of the Davis Shore residents, they'd be more than happy to have us dredge all that out and put it on the beach. So that will be an option to the contractor as well. So in all, there's roughly 2.2 million cubic yards that is available within these areas, of which we only need about 1.3 million cubic yards. The areas you see that are circles are historical wrecks. The one here, I believe, is the Dixie Crystal. So we do set a buffer that's required by the State Historic Preservation Association. There will be a buffer around that the contractor cannot go near. And there are also two prehistoric sites to the south that we are diving on now to identify exactly what that is. And the State Historic Preservation Office will provide buffers for that as well. Even with the buffers, we have plenty of sand to do the project. How do we do it? We just talked about cutter suction dredges in our previous discussion. This is a very, very large cutter suction dredge. Essentially, it will basically they will dredge the material and run a pipeline up near Porpoise Point, along the Federal Jetty, up north of the beach with one booster pump to get it up there to the southern end of the project and work their way north to complete the 3-mile-long project. So they will connect various pipes within the inlet, all clearly marked in accordance with Coast Guard standards for lighting, etc., as they work that dredging area. We will have a screen on the pipe. I don't know if this is a huge party spot. I'm sure the local law enforcement could give me a better idea of that, but we do this down in Biscayne Bay, and when a lot of the sand comes out of the end of the pipe, it has a lot of beer bottles and such in it, so we do put a screen on the end of the pipe. I don't know when the last time, if ever, this has been dredged, the flood shoal, so we will put a screen on the end of that pipe to try to avoid any kind of glass bottles, all that type of stuff from coming out on the beach from that flood shoal. The Ebb Shoal complex you see out here in federal waters, we leave that sand source for St. Augustine Beach. That's where all the sand comes. That's about 2 to 3 miles offshore for St. Augustine Beach. This is just a quick, a little bit dizzy there. All right. So that's just the Intercoastal Waterway North, showing the exact parameters of that. This is the North Flood Shoal. This is the Widener. You see the white dashed lines that we give the contractor. We basically break it out into grids. We tell him to hit this grid first, clean it out to a certain depth, then go to this one, this one, this one. Why do we do that? We do real detailed modeling. We want to make sure that whatever we do doesn't impact future flooding potential to the city of St. Augustine, etc. So we make sure that whatever depths that we're taking will not increase wave height, etc., and cause problems to St. Augustine. This is the Davis Shore Shoal. Our first area of interest is getting this, and then we would work closer to the houses if needed. Reason being, the circles are in this second area here that are those prehistoric sites that are being identified now. Just real quick, typical cross-section of the project. Essentially what we're doing is building a huge layer of cake on the beach that will serve as that first line of defense from those future storm waves. We want that, the beach is made to sacrifice itself. It will wash away, and that's what we want it to do, but ultimately after it washes away, the infrastructure and everything will still be standing, and hopefully we don't have a repeat of what happened after Hurricane Matthew. So the dune will be about 40 feet wide at the top. We will match the existing grade, which is about 19 feet. There will be some extra towel space, as we call it, for beachgoers. We'll have about a 175-foot wide beach, and then we will slope it down on about a 10-to-1 slope to connect under the ocean to existing grade. A very, very wide, robust beach to protect not only from storm surge and hurricanes, but also recreational opportunities for all the beachgoers that will be using the beach. That area will wash itself out, and every 11, 12 years we'll come back and restore it, either using the inlet or another source as needed. Talked about dune plantings real fast. We will do the same thing. The state specifies what kind of plants you can use, sea oats, there's some sunflower species, etc. So we will follow the state mandated guidelines on that. You see right here that the vegetation line stops a little bit short. Why is that? The natural surf area will wash out vegetation to a certain height, so we keep it up and on top of the dune to whatever that height is based on wave conditions in that area. Varying situations real fast to mention in Villano. The reaction after Hurricane Matthew was, let's all go put up seawalls, which they've done. We have several different scenarios that we'll have to do. If the seawall's to a certain height of our dune crest, which is 19 feet, we'll just simply tie into their seawall, which is a few of the cases. We have cases where the seawalls are lower than 19 feet, which is the top of our dune. In that case, we will bury the seawall and connect into their existing grade. All the residents were ecstatic about that. Instead of looking at the seawall, they'll have a dune area that they can vegetate and they won't see the seawall. So this will wash out first, and then as a second line of defense, they'll have their seawall there to protect their infrastructure. So that's scenario number 2. Scenario number 3 is the seawall's low and the grade slope. They never redid their slope after Matthew, so it kind of slopes down. At that point, we are not authorized to place material underneath anyone's property, nor would you find a contractor willing with bonding and insurance to go underneath somebody's property. So we will stop short of that, about a 10-foot offset, and slope down, at which time they can come in with their own sand material and place under to connect to our dune structure. The last one is it's basically the same as number 3, but they don't have a seawall. Again, we'll build a dune to 19 feet high and tie in, stopping about 10 feet short of their existing property. All the walkovers, we do fill in around the walkovers to the sides, underneath, on top of. Why do we do that? This is no different than a levee on the Mississippi River. You want a solid structure that water cannot intrude through to prevent any kind of intrusion of water and erosion of material, causing that escarpments and loss of property. So that structure will be a solid structure. However, within 6 months of wave action, those steps will become exposed for all the residents, so there's usually no concern there. Construction schedule, what are we looking at? Ultimately, we are working right now in the middle of the plans and specs, all the permitting phases of the project. We will ultimately complete everything we need to do by 30 December of 19, which includes getting our water quality permit, getting the plans and specs done. The sponsor has around 155 easements they have to get of private residents. That's a very large task for them. They have assembled a task force, a real estate team from St. Johns County that are going door to door to get those. Ultimately, we will advertise the contract on 28 January of 20 through 12 March. Open bids on 12 March of 20. It will be a low bid, technically acceptable proposal, so we don't really evaluate the bids other than are they bonded, are they insured, etc. Once we determine all that, they will get an award from us in April, notice to proceed on 7 May. They will initiate construction in June and complete in December of 2020. That is in the peak of turtle season. That is in the peak of a lot of beachgoers going up and down the beach. That's the way our schedules typically work out. President Trump in the supplemental bill gave us 3 years to complete these projects. So we are working expeditiously as we can to meet that schedule. 2 things, if there are sea turtle nests up and down the beach, we have certified sea turtle experts that will relocate those nests if they're in the way of construction. Nobody from the public knows where those nests have been relocated. They don't advertise it. Then secondly, for the beach people that are going up and down the beach, using the beach, our contractors are required to provide security. They work in 1,000-foot segments up the beach with orange fencing. Typically, they hire the local police department, which is St. Johns County, City of St. Augustine, et cetera, to help them during that 24/7 construction. So it works pretty well. And that is all I have, subject to your questions.
Mr. Jason, or did you just say that all we had to do is, I assume, a resolution by the board to give you a call and you would go survey the Sebastian River?
We have the Continuing Authorities Program, and essentially what that is, there's about 10 to 11 vehicles that's within that authority. Some we have shoreline damage, others we have clogged inlets, others we have drainage systems that are bad. You basically write us a letter stating that we have this problem, this is the kind of solution we're looking for, and that gives us authority to start the process, which requires letters to our division headquarters office seeking funding to go do things. And so it's a little bit of a process to go through, but ultimately what that opens it up the door for is potential federal cost share. Majority of these vehicles have cost limits of up to $10 to $12 million, but typically their cost share is 65% federal, 35% local. But the first initial step is a letter stating the problem to the Corps of Engineers, our commander, Colonel Andrew Kelly.
So would it cost us money to get a survey done? So if work's done, it cost us 30 or 40% of it, but...
Well, so for the Corps, I don't want to put rose-colored glasses, it's a lengthy process. So if you came to us and said, we have a problem at Summer Haven, the river's clogged up, we have continual shoaling, we want it fixed. Then our first process is we do a federal interest determination. We write to our headquarters, say, hey, we reviewed this, we think there's federal interest to get this cleaned out to help the residents. Then we have to do a study to say we want to dredge this river and potentially maintain it for several years. So you got to do the study. Then you do design, and then you do construction. All in all, a lot of times it takes 3 to 5 years to get through the process. Very lengthy, but once you get through it, you're golden. So if you came to us and said, hey, we have this problem, can you go do a survey today? We could not.
But just to her question, the survey itself would not cost us anything. That's something that the Corps of Engineers pays for. It's not until construction that we would start sharing costs.
No, you share costs. So the first $100,000 to do the federal interest determination, do initial coordination with you is all federal. Once we assign what we call a feasibility cost share agreement saying we're going to do this study, here's the cost. Some of those studies are about $1 million to $2 million to do. Right. That would be 65-35 cost share.
And we do the 35?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that would be just asking you to come look at Sebastian, so it would be some money?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it.
Or any project. I mean,
right, okay.
Yes. And as I said, in a future meeting, Commissioner Brown, if you'd like that gentleman to come down, he's the Continuing Authority Program Manager, so he manages it for the entire state of Florida, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. He would be more than happy to come down and walk you through that process.
Interesting.
My only other question was, you said you're continuing with what the mayor had started with that study for the seawall for the city of St. Augustine. Have they done the match? Have they found their matching funds yet, or they're still looking for that?
I can't speak to that.
Okay,
we have a letter from them saying they are ready to meet. It's a $3 million study, and it's 50-50, $1.5 million from the city. Okay. So it's our understanding they have their share once our federal funds are received.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're back up to old business. Commissioner Flowers, May Street Boat Landing?
Oh, the May Street Boat Landing,
Or you
yes.
want to do the other one with
Well, the boat landing won't take but a minute, then we'll do the dredge thing. How about that?
Okay.
Okay. May Street Boat Landing, we had talked about that previously, and Mr. Pickett brought us some pictures in. I don't have those today, but if you guys remembered, it looks like it was a huge state easement. Well, I talked to this fellow named Jason Nayales. Anyways, he's at the St. Johns County Property Appraiser's office, and he sent me a letter that says, we do not have any easements on record regarding this property, and we do not have anything classified between the property and May Street. We have this property as bordering May Street. So it looks like there is no state easement there, and it's just port property. from the way back when things were done differently. He goes on to say, just across the road, there's also no state limits. It's actually city property right up to the road. So that being said, and then Mike, you have something, you had contacted them as well. It doesn't even look like to repair this. It would, the boat landing part is still there. The concrete where you enter the water is still there. It just looks like to repair it, we'd have to fix the big holes. Maybe a few signs. And go ahead with what you did, what you had on that, Mike.
Yeah, I contacted DOT, and I was just going based on this plot that was given to us last month. My understanding is most of this area, this access is on the DOT right-of-way, and they generally prefer not to improve any unofficial access points. I don't think they want to promote people to use their property. I presume it's for liability, but I'm not sure. But DOT does have to provide reasonable access to other people's properties, people that have to use their right-of-way, and the Port District would have to use DOT's right-of-way to get to their property here. So that plays in your favor. The big sticking point potentially is that, DOT, if you improve this property, DOT does not want to maintain it. So they would want you to take full responsibility for any future maintenance of any improvements. And we'd have to prove that any improvements do not cause any adverse effects to drainage or anything else.
And that's assuming, though, that it's actually a state easement there.
That's correct. It's assuming it's their right-of-way.
But it's right-of-way.
Right-of-way. All right, so this letter from Mr. Jason at the county, how do you interpret that, Mr. Bedsole?
Well, there's no easements, but there's right-of-way. The state owns that right-of-way.
Okay, so
So we're going to be working on property that's owned by the state of Florida.
So we have no easement. I thought the public easement is not the same as the public right-of-way?
Well, it's not, it's a road right-of-way. It's a public road.
I know, but St. Augustine is special. We know all that because a lot of things are not as they seem to be, which is why you have to go to the...
It's road right-of-way, just like the interstate highway or US 1. It's A1A, May Street. It's road right-of-way. It's about probably 100 feet wide, something like that. So the port's property borders it on the southeast side, and on the other side is city property. And that's
right. His letter indicates that we own the property up to the road.
Up to the right-of-way.
Right-of-way.
Yeah,
to the road.
Not the pavement, the right-of-way.
Okay, well, okay. I'll give him a call back because that's not what he was explaining to me.
Look at the maps that you have.
Well, right, that's what, I understand that, but what he indicated, that a lot of things are incorrect on those maps. That's why you have to pay for title searches and whatnot.
Well, the port actually deeded property to the Department of Transportation or the state for the road right-of-way for A1A, so.
Well, you would think the county appraiser would know that, no?
Well, it's ancient history. I mean, that's.
Okay. Well, either way, it sounds like, from what Mike is saying, that because it's a right-of-way or a way to get into the property we do clearly own, that they would be okay with that? Is there something we need to...
From the DOT correspondence is that they would be okay with an improvement along there, but they're not going to build anything or maintain anything.
And I wasn't even thinking about that, too. Several of my neighbors approached me, and they had mentioned this to the mayor of St. Augustine years ago, and were told that it could not be improved because of the right-of-way as well. But if we can get by that, it's just a few trucks of rocks and sand. Mike, how do we go about looking at that?
So you're just looking into filling in the holes and ruts?
Making it usable. Well, the problem is, too, is the little sideways road that goes down to the river has to have some signs because people park there. And if you've got a bunch of cars already parked there because of the mud puddles, you can't take your kayak down. So you just have to have, have somebody, an engineer, look at that and see what we could do with very little to make it at least accessible and usable.
Right, so I think that the next step is to write an email to the contacts I have at DOT, explain to them exactly what you want to do, just bringing in some material to fill in those holes and ruts so that you can drive straight down that road and install some signs and just agree to maintain that. Yeah. And then we get their response and we start working with them. So I think this can be done.
A trash can would be nice, and that might be difficult with the city, I don't know, because it would have to be dumped. But a few people did mention that a trash can would be nice, not required. But,
Yes, so I can draft up an email and send that to DOT and just get the ball rolling on this.
could I make a motion that we move forward on Mike doing that?
I'll second that.
Sure.
I printed off another copy for everybody. No, I'll wait till I get to the microphone.
Jim Piggott, City of St. Augustine. I did check with our planning and building department and specifically David Bertram, our director. And what Taylor said is right, that is a FDOT right-of-way. Part of the road is in the Port District property, but the majority of it, including the boat ramp, is in the FDOT right-of-way. Couple things, I'm not here to give you the right or wrong answer. Bad news first, if you continue to elevate this to the DOT, there's a possibility, I'm not saying it's going to happen, that they could say, well, because of a liability issue, we don't want any parking there, we don't want any boat ramp there, because it's on DOT property.
They already do that. They already park there though, Jim.
Yeah, but it's not official. It's
Right. I don't know about that. It was an official boat ramp at one point, it's just been let go.
And then the other thing is, if you do any improvements here, because it is in the city of St. Augustine, there's, once we get notified, we the city, by the FDOT, that, hey, they're fine with whatever improvements you all want to make on the FDOT right away, then that would still have to come to our planning and building department for an approval.
So why wouldn't the city of St. Augustine want to improve this?
I'm not saying we don't.
Okay, it sure does seem like they don't want to do it.
I'm not saying we don't. I'm just saying it would have to come, because we have to treat every, government agency request and private request the same. And I'm not sure what you're thinking about for improvement. I do know if you're talking about paving, which I don't think you are. The gravel, and I'm not in planning and building, so I couldn't give you the answer.
Okay.
If you have a paved property there, I know you're talking a retention pond of some type as well. But I couldn't tell you what the answer is with some type of gravel, sand, parking. But
so even though this is not city property, the city wants us... It's in the city limits. The city wants us to go through the permit department. That's Mr. Birchfield?
No. Bertram, David.
Oh, Bertram.
Planning and building.
I'm sorry, planning and building. Okay.
But we can't do anything until the FDOT approves whatever improvements you want, because it's on their right-of-way for the majority of the work. And for you, the part of the road you can see that's in your property, that would need to go to planning and building.
Regular permitting.
Right.
Okay.
Just to make it clear.
Okay.
Gotcha, thank you. So it doesn't sound like it would hurt us to keep the conversation going with FDOT, and that would be the next necessary step anyway, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'm going to add to
ahead, sorry.
Josh Underwood, the Sheriff's Office Marine. Just so you know, Commissioner Brown, Friday while I was working, the DOT guys were working right there, and they came over to Volano Ramp when I was there and asked me to have 6 cars vacate from over there because they were on DOT property where they were working. Those people were using kayaks there, and I talked to all of them, and they just came to Volano Ramp, parked their cars there, and used the kayaks there. So they did move when I asked them to.
Okay.
Just so you're aware.
I'm not sure I understood that. The DOT asked people to leave this area?
They were parked on the right-of-way where DOT would, and they had trucks.
They put a boat,
Correct, because they were using that as parking, and they walked their kayak down there.
Right.
So they were all down there when I walked over there, and I just asked them to move to the boat ramp, and they did that.
Well, why would DOT want them to leave this boat ramp? I mean,
they had 4 trucks parked on the side of the road. They were doing road work right there.
Oh, they needed it for the work. Right. Okay.
So
not that they had a thing about people kayaking out there.
That could be an issue in the future as well when they're working.
They had 4 trucks parking right there, that's why.
Well, they're doing something. Isn't that thing on the other side of May Street, that big, there's
right.
Okay.
So, yeah, continue the conversation with FDOT, I guess, is the way to go, and we'll see.
Okay, let's see. Sandy?
Could I do the dredge thing, because the poor fellow thinks I'm waiting?
yeah.
Okay, great. I just wanted to remind everybody that one reason we started looking at possibly, and I know we're still at the possibly stage of the port owning some of its own equipment and leasing it out, is because I think it was started with talking about $1 million that we keep in savings for emergencies, and then when we have...
For the inlet, just for the inlet.
Right, and when we have emergencies, nobody comes running. And whether that be for the inlet or not, I mean, if we had emergencies in the river, would we be able to, I mean, if it's an emergency fund for the district?
I think it can always change, but it's
Right.
primarily set for the inlet, because if the inlet gets
Right.
screwed up,
Everything's screwed up.
nobody's going to help.
Right, you're right. Anyways, so we started looking at owning possibly some of our own equipment. And now, after doing the Summer Haven thing, I gotta tell y'all, I feel like I'm held hostage. Here we have 1/3 of a project undone. We can't convince the man to redo it. It looks like we're gonna have to pay him to go finish a project that we have already paid him to do. I just wanna keep that in mind as I show you some of the equipment. Let's see. And not just that, not just the dredging, we suffered terribly after like Hugo and Irma. One of my neighbors, and I know you have to use who you can get, but we're using companies to put in docks, and I don't think, I mean, have y'all seen some of these little guys out there putting in the docks with the jets? Mr. Ray was talking about if you put them in, that's waiting 2 years just to get that. So there's plenty of business on the eastern seaboard. We're not going to be taking business from anybody, that's for sure. Okay, I need to get to the, Miss Ellis, Elise, would you help me get that list up again? Let's, might as well do a cutter head barge, since that's what we've been talking about, Jody. Mr. Mike, can you tell me how long the barge is that Mr. Turnbull is using currently now on Summer Haven?
The length of it?
About, I mean, it's just so I can try to compare apples to apples.
I don't know, maybe about 50 feet long is a guess.
That's a cutter head barge right near that. It's a good size one. I know this is not one of the pictures you sent me, but it was really fancy, so, but this is what they look like, guys. And that big cutter head thing goes down, dredges the sand, and there's a big current going through there, pushes it through a pipe, correct? It hits a pump, pushes it as far as you need. You might need extra pumps, is that correct, to keep moving it? And as far as you want to, but that is a cutter head dredge. And boy, if we had one of those, it would sure take care of a lot of problems that we had. Let me just show you some more things here. How did I go back to all photos, Elise? Oh, one thing I wanted to show you on that. Look at the shallow water that thing is sitting in. So you can have 30, 40 feet, and it's almost right up next to sand. We can get into Sebastian just about anywhere we need to go. I don't want to push that, that's not correct. Just trying to find an easy way to get back to the... Let's go to the list.
No, that is what you're looking at. That's what you're looking at.
You know what? I can use this light thing. I've got some of these over here.
Yeah, but there's a way to do this, to go back to your list.
There it is, okay. All right. And what did you do? That's what I need. What did you hit?
The X on the right side.
Just hit
upper
the X.
right.
Okay, just hit the X. Okay. That's one picture of a cutter hedge dredger. This is about the same as what they're, isn't that pretty similar to what they're using now, Mike? Down there?
That looks a little bigger,
Little bit
but
bigger.
similar, same type.
we were looking at, I believe we have a quote for a 28 and a 38 was the one I liked, 38 feet was the one I liked. Now, Eric, tell us about, we've had some problems with this. Mike, you said one of the reasons we were down for like a month is because hurricane debris would get stuck inside, and then we'd have a problem, waiting on parts, etc. Eric, would you tell us about a way to avoid that? For example, if we bought something like this, just so you know, right off the bat, it's just under $1 million. There's no doubt. It would take just about what we have in savings. But we'd have this, and we can get something else, a pile driver too. Eric, tell us about what you can put inside to possibly avoid that.
State your name and everything.
State your name
Yeah.
and who you're with.
Yeah.
My name's Eric Curtis, Dunedin, Florida, so I'm on the other side of the state. I own a saltwater fabrication shop that we specialize in marine equipment, industrial equipment, and there's a big difference between saltwater and inland, as the saltwater just destroys stuff, so you take a little more time and care into the design and building to make it last. So there are items that you can add inside the cutter head that will help prevent bigger pieces getting lodged down inside there. I'm not sure what size this gentleman's using.
It's an 8-inch dredge?
8-inch? Pretty small for this kind of job, so that's probably part of the problem there. Commissioner Flowers has come to me and asked about a 10-inch. You could even do a 12-inch. And that's not going to get out in the ocean, but you can do all your intercoastal, your waterways on the way in. And it depends on the weather too. I mean, you're not going to go out there in bad weather and be able to work. But this is a swinging dredge, and the cutter head actually swings left to right instead of the whole dredge. And this setup will allow you to go up in canalways, marinas, your intercoastal, and it doesn't have any cables or anchors that you set out to the side. Now the larger ones have cables, anchors, you have to keep moving those, but if you have a vessel, boat coming past you, you have to stop what you're doing, let the cables down so the boat doesn't get them, and then continue on. So this setup here is self-contained, and there's no cables or anything, so it can work on its own, and it will have a path of about 60 foot that it can cut in one shot.
That's the swing radius.
Left to right is a swing radius of just under 50 feet.
That's nice.
And from what I'm told, you guys are working with about a 12-foot depth is your maximum that you're usually working.
Rarely. I mean, 12 would be more than we'd ever need.
Yeah, the Intercoastal Waterway has a 12-foot depth.
So you'd still set it up where you could go deeper, and the deeper gives you also the more length in the ladder, and the longer the ladder is, the wider the stroke of it left and right.
So it goes back and forth, and it also just goes straight down, so say if we had a hump, you know, at the edge of the inlet or something, or especially like Salt Run, or just all the places we get humps, it can just go right down to 12 feet?
12 feet, clean it out. It'll do just under 200 cubic yards an hour. So run that all day. It won't take long to knock some stuff out. Just matters where you want to pump it to.
Now, for the right around $1 million, how far did we decide on taking? Was it a half mile you could, with that equipment, you could take the sand?
You can go a half mile without adding a booster pump.
A half mile without adding a booster pump?
Depending on elevation, if you're, how far you're going up. Once you start going up, then you're going to have to get more pump involved. But if you're keeping it under 10 feet, you shouldn't have any issues there.
So you'd have to run pipe to half mile away to dump the sand?
Yes, unless you're going to run a hopper barge or something alongside of it, but still then you're going to have to move that and either dump that out in the water somewhere
So
or pump it from there.
The barge isn't included, it's just the cutter?
No, it's the whole barge minus piping to get it there, but the barge, the pump, the cutter head, that's the whole unit.
How much piping cost?
Used piping is $25 a foot.
Used pipe?
Used pipe.
What is that now, Eric?
That is, now, okay, I'm 6'4". That's a 10-inch pump.
Wow.
So it's a little deceiving on what you're talking about
So
when
that's
you
a
say the
10-inch.
sizes. So that's a 10-inch pump. It would have a 12-inch inlet and a 10-inch out. and it would have a 12-inch fish mouth at the end. It's a little like oval inlet tube behind the cutter head, and that's where all the suction happens. So the other thing is, which picture there is, but we manufacture pile driving barges, and Ms. Flowers has talked about that you have many times where you got to put pilings back in, you have to wait on somebody. It's a good combination that she came to me, because with the dredge, you can move around in the area that you're dredging, but you still need something to push it out to where you're going and get it back and forth, and you need to be able to get out and refuel it. So we can do a combination of a pile driving barge with a crane on it that you can set pilings, you can be a refueler, you can push the dredger around. You could, with the crane that's on it, you could do almost anything that you guys need to do on the waterway that's under 3,000 pounds that you can pick up, move, which, I mean, it's unlimited what you could do with something like that.
It is spectacular, that
Not quite that big.
dredge. No, this is a brochure, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because this cutter head dredge, not only would we have a brand new dredge, equipment that didn't break down, we know what we were getting all the time, we could maintain it. This man is telling me that there's software, and I thought only really fancy stuff had this, that we can watch the dredging from the computer.
You could watch it in your office to see what's going on out in the water, and it keeps track of depth, everything. You know, if you miss a spot, it knows that you did. It's all.
It knows it all already, right?
Everything, yep.
We wouldn't, this is what we have going on in Summerhaven.
There's no guessing about it.
No guessing about it.
Yep.
And we
Everything's
wouldn't be
there.
waiting on audit studies or surveys or anything, and
You can see on the bottom right there, the purple is where he is actually dredging right there. And behind him, that's the spot that's done.
so he's actually seeing, that's actually
You're
the
seeing it as
arm
it
right there
happens.
moving,
Correct.
isn't it? I'll be darned. So he wouldn't, I mean, you would know if you were leaving fingers or any high spots right away.
Everything.
And that's all part of the package?
Yes.
Pretty fancy. Okay. And the pile driver barge, can you tell us about the, that claw thing that you invented?
The claw, we made a pneumatic pile driving hammer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. There's, you can use a drop hammer, which is a large heavyweight that you just straight out drop. Takes a special winch to be able to do that, or a special crane. There's another version of doing that, which is a pneumatic pile driving hammer, which you take a smaller compressor, you can put it on a barge. You don't need the special winches or anything like that. We took it a step farther, because every piling is a different size, even though they say it's a 12-inch piling, it's truly not 12 inch, it's a piece of wood, so everything varies. So one end might be 10, the other side might be 12, or in between, or down, I mean, they got pilings down to 8, 14, I mean, it's all over the board. We made, it's called a claw hammer, which has fingers on it that will grab a piling. You can physically pick a piling up, set it in place, and then start pounding it in. There's a couple additional features with that is, now it doesn't matter the size of a piling, so a traditional pneumatic hammer would start bouncing around because it's got play in there and it doesn't hit as hard. So with ours, you engage the fingers, the claw, and you got a solid hit every time. It centers itself right up on the piling. A couple other things, if the piling's not quite straight, you can drag it a little bit to the side, because it's got a hold of it. It's got 5,000 foot-pounds of pressure on the jaws. That's something, we just developed that last year. I came over, I think yesterday.
Yeah.
We got an order for 2 in 2 days.
2 of them in 2 days. It sounds fabulous. It's like a robotic arm.
Yeah, it's catching on pretty fast.
People saying it really speeds the job up.
It does, and it's safer, it's quieter, it's not as loud. Most of the hammers on the market it's a metal drum with a metal weight, and it just comes down and slams. I'm sure you guys have heard them in the distance. We have a special piece of plastic in there. It's a sound deadener. It's not quiet by no means, but it's not the ear-piercing sound. There's protection plates, nobody can get their hand in there. It will sit on the barge on its own without being strapped down, where all the other ones you look at, you're not gonna do that. It's gonna tip over and roll off the side.
How long is the pile driving barge you think we need around here?
I would recommend the one I quoted you, but the price is still the same. I wouldn't change the price on it, because your waterways are big, open. It takes nothing for the wind to come up. I would do a 35 by 12 foot. It wouldn't be 12, it'd be, we call it 12, but it'd be 11 foot, 11 inches. And the reason for that is it keeps it under 12 foot and you don't need any big permits to run it down the road. Once you get over 12, then you need a full escort and.
Or hurricanes, you take it out and whatever.
Yeah,
Or
but
rent
you'd
it.
be able to do any repairs that you need to do on in the intercoastal with that. And in the estimate I gave Commissioner Flowers, it's set up with 500-gallon diesel fuel tanks, which are would be able to use for the dredger to be able to go out and refuel it. It have twin engines on it, 12,000-pound, 360 rotating crane, internal potable water tank for washing off salt water off your equipment. Because once you're out there, you're kind of on your own. Internal fuel tanks for the engines. We do internal jet pipes, which is pumping the water from the back to the front. We're one of the only manufacturers that I know of that you can get a fully turnkey pile driving barge where you can come to our shop, order it, pick it up, the next day, put it in service. You don't have to do nothing but turn the key. So we do hydraulics in the shop, everything is internal. We don't outsource anything other than the purchase of the crane. We build our own hydraulic power units. We got an hydraulic engineer that is on our team.
No, we were talking before, though, because you're in Largo or Clearwater, I know the pile driver could go over road, a 38-foot dredger, have to pull that through the waterway, or could that go over?
No, you can go over the road because the one that you guys would be looking at would actually be a 3-piece unit. So there'd be the center section, which would be the main dredge, which is pretty much everything with the pump, the engines, the cabin, and then there'd be 2 outside pontoons, floats, if you want to call them that, that would be added on once you got here. And we're capable of coming in and training, showing you maintenance, setting maintenance, even coming over monthly if you needed maintenance. I mean.
And you told me before that.
And we're only 4 hours away.
Yeah, hadn't you said that the average barge life is like 14 years, but you saw somebody maintain one and it was 40 years old?
It's 26 years right now. And maintenance is everything on the saltwater.
Right.
And even on the dredges. So on your pump, the pump is probably one of the most expensive units on there. And if you go and adjust the play on your pump every week, your pump's going to last twice as long. It only takes a few minutes to do, not a few minutes, but
right.
You know, things like that, longevity is a big issue. With the sand and the texture of the material down here in the water, there's special chrome moly material pumps that are designed just for sand, because sand, you think of sand as something you go out on the beach, you sit on, but sand is no different than sandpaper. Even with the water moving through it, it still eats away at everything. So there are special pumps that are designed for your application. And really it'd be about an 8-month build from the day you get the order, and the longest thing is the pump.
You said about 8 months?
About 6 months to get the pump.
Right. So the pile driver with all the bells and whistles, and that was fancy, and that includes the robotic arm.
Everything.
I believe that was around 192,000?
With cabin on it, the crane, everything.
And then the cutter head barge, 950,000, just under a million, and of course that's just because it depends on how you tweak it. When you're in, but that's
set up that you don't have to use the anchors out the front. So set the anchors, and then your boating issues. You do get a little bit wider cut with that, but you wouldn't be able to get into narrow places, marinas, canalways, you can't use it. So the setup that we're talking about gives you the best scenario possible, where you can still do your intercoastal, no problems, but get into tighter waterways. You're still gonna need a depth of 3 to 4 feet. And if there's something narrow, it's possible to get in there, you're just gonna have to dredge yourself in.
Right.
It depends on what you're doing. But you could get down next to pilings, I'm sure there's a limit how close you want to get to it, but you can clean that out.
Yeah.
Where
Wow.
the other setup, you're not gonna get in there.
Anybody have any questions?
Sure, I mean, there's a lot more specs and.
Yeah, I've got quite a package. We're missing one today, and I'm going to make sure everybody gets the full color package I printed out. And
A lot of companies that build them that are in the middle of the country, they go a thinner plate. They use 3/16 and even 1/8 inch, which we manufacture barges. We got 4 in the shop right now. One outside. We got too many in there, but.
So that's just too thin.
It's too thin, especially in the soil where we use 1/4 inch minimum. And it's longevity. Things are gonna happen, they get scratched no matter how good you wanna treat something, and if it's thin, it takes no time for, the salt water start eating through stuff. There's bulkheads in them, they're like fail safe, but if you were to get a hole in one section, it would only get into there and it would stop it. So they're in a dredger like that, there's probably at least 10 bulkheads, 10 different sections that are sealed.
Yeah.
And it's an insurance package to you so that it doesn't sink in case somebody were to hit something that could puncture it or wore a hole through it, or it would be pretty hard to puncture it. Anything's possible.
I know maintenance, everything. I will say to the board that I've spoken to at least 5 companies that build docks and dredging people, and every one of them was like, I would rent it in a minute. There's just so much business on the eastern seaboard. Some people are literally bringing equipment over from Cedar Key to work here, and it's not even the right equipment. I just expect that it would be rented out at least all the time. But I would send with you in the package, I've got Herbie Wiles working up, how much would it cost to insure a dredge driver, et cetera, to give you the full thing and perhaps take a vote on something next meeting.
I would recommend a crew that runs it that's very knowledgeable in it, not just, if somebody were to rent it, they have to hire your crew.
Now, see, you're building something.
About the equipment, then.
Right, you're building something to rent out over there, aren't you?
I am.
And what are you going to put on that?
It's the same package, so it's funny that this came up.
Same isn't it? It's a good package. But are you gonna have your own driver?
It's gonna be me.
Okay.
I had this idea, and I kind of think I'm gonna start playing on the water. Normally,
Well, if we had something like.
I'd be in welding equipment. I'm out in the guys with the shop. I don't sit in the office, so I'm a hands-on owner.
It's a very impressive shop, very impressive. But owning something like this, I don't feel like we'd ever have Summerhaven happen to us again.
Now, the barge itself, the power driving barge is aluminum. So you would have that pretty much forever. So
Okay.
maintenance on that, it's just mainly zincs, some bottom paint for the growth on it. But 30, 40 years is not an issue with a vessel like that.
Well, the big thing I see in this thing, that's really a slick rig. I'm a little familiar with barges, not too much on dredging, but, if we were to do something like that, we are in the marine contracting business if we were to purchase something like this.
No
We
doubt.
become a marine contractor. And, there's just a lot of issues there. Most of the marine contractors that I know, they don't have a place to store their barge because it's always on a job site. But unless we're prepared to go into the marine contracting business, completely into it, I just don't see how this is going
Well,
to
it
work.
could work like an enterprise fund, where we're basically financing it, and it's being leased out by a lot of different businesses.
If there's that much demand for it, I would think a marine contractor would probably be doing it right now.
Well, look what happened to Summerhaven. We have no place to turn.
No, I understand that.
We are literally held hostage.
All I'm saying is, if we were to buy a barge or a dredge or whatever, we are in the marine contracting business.
Right.
And the idea of renting it out to somebody is completely unworkable without having a full-time crew.
Well, that would be it. See, Mr. Way, when I read our charter, it says that we are supposed to be working just like that. If you look at the things, the work that we were supposed to be doing in our charter, that's one of them. Things just like that. So if you look at that, and I'll get you a full package, and I'd like it also, before you make a decision, get your mind set up, is to speak with the stakeholders. And I've spoken with a lot, and they're going to all be contacting you as well. And consider everything, but I will continue to work on what it would cost us to insure it, what would be the payroll for, at least one dredge, one operator, and one crew member. Most of the people I spoke to said that they have the crew, they just wanted an operator and the equipment, and they could do a lot more business.
I know the cities over by us, they have all their own pile driving equipment. That is standard over Clearwater, Treasure Island. The cities over by us, most of them do maintain or have capabilities of replacing pilings or anything they need done on the water, and they don't rely on an outside contractor.
Was Fort Lauderdale come to you for dredgers or pile drivers?
Pile drivers.
Pile drivers, yeah. Well, we're sure in a hostage situation. I just know we don't have people, we're in a small town, and to get, like I said, when people come, they won't come. So anyways, I will get the package to the rest of the board.
Great. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Thank you, Mr. Curtis.
Thanks.
I just want to let you know that we have to be out of here by 5:30.
Okay. All right.
There's another meeting going to be coming.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Sandy,
Yes.
shoaling at the entrance to Comanche.
Oh, that's just a question I'd like to ask, and I guess the Army Corps guy. Why can't we dredge and fix that channel, that terrible hump that comes in there through the rocks?
I think years ago, that we looked into that, and it was private. It wasn't part of our deal. I think we looked into that. You guys are from Comanche.
Yeah, correct. Pete,
Yeah.
come on up, Pete.
Yep. Just state your name and everything. Okay.
Peter Sabo, Comanche Cove.
Okay. I think we looked into that at one time. Sandy, did you have any other information or anything or questions?
No, it's just, as long as I've been here for 20 years, it just comes in. It just seems like there's a little jetty fixing up would probably do the trick.
Yeah, we're in the process right now of, we've hired a company to come look at a possible jetty, what we could do. And we're in the preliminary stages with that, and they'll be moving into working with the district and the county and the federal government.
Okay, so somebody is looking into it.
Once we do it. We don't know what our options are yet, but we're looking at trying to do it. What's happened is what we see, and we're getting verification on this, excuse me, is all the erosion from after Matthew, especially in the Porpoise Point area, it's all being swung around, and now it's taking the berm that we used to have just south of our jetty, and it's washing all that away as well. So we've lost that entire berm, and you can tell by satellite pictures over time, and all that grass and stabilization has disappeared. So now it's just washing through, washing over the pilings that have been set on its side that the DOT put in when they built the new bridge. So that's all being eroded away. So that's creating an issue for us on the inside.
I
So
guess,
we're dredging that every year now.
Well, I guess my thing was, I don't understand how I understand once you hit the docks, then that's private back there, although there are all kinds of businesses, personal residences, et cetera, have their boats in there. And I just don't understand that because of this. From the intercoastal to, say, the conch house, we keep that channel nice and deep, just to go from the, with public money, and we fix it if we need to. And so I guess that's my question. I don't expect us to be able to use public money once we hit your docks, but the worst of it, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly, and we had that same conversation, and we did bring some people out 4 years ago, maybe?
And so who determined it was private, and just until you get up to the docks, that is?
Well, we just had a survey done, and Travis can help me with the survey. This is Travis from the Cove, too. And
Yeah, Travis Stotts, Comanche Cove. We had a survey done. Actually, most of that channel, or portion of that channel, is sovereign land. It's not ours. And that's why we're having to go with the engineers to determine who all we have to contact to do our seawall project that we're looking at, because there's going to be a lot of dredging involved if we wanted to put that in. There's all kinds of stuff involved with putting that in, but that's when we found out with the survey preliminary survey that's sovereign land, and they're actually getting ready to do, well, today and tomorrow, they're coming through to do a bathymetric of the channel to see where it's at right now. And if you look at old Lidor stuff, you watch the shoreline below the bridge, south of the bridge there, going to the boat ramp jetty. It has receded several hundred feet in the last 20 years back to the west, and we can only assume most of that sand and silt has come to our channel. And we tend to think, judging by the timeline, especially some of the old Lidor pictures they had, some of the engineers, probably has to do with the bridge. When they changed the bridge, with the new bridge in, the timing of it, I think the new bridge was in like 97, 98. Shortly after that is when you notice a significant change. And when you just go up on that bridge and look at all the water passing underneath the bridge, because there's several run-out creeks that actually connect from our channel to the boat ramp channel, that are not a part of the main waterway, and that helps carry silt. That's actually another area, but that is in our property, that deposits beneath one of our docks, and actually has gotten to the point where it started breaking our dock because it lifts it up, puts pressure on the concrete. Concrete's not meant to bend. But that run out comes all the way from the boat ramp, which I think is a county or city boat.
Well, so when you say sovereign land, we're talking about from the intercoastal...
State land, I guess.
Right, so that means it's a public...
Not all of it, but a portion of it.
Inside our break wall, a portion of it is sovereign.
That could be, until you get to your docks or whatever, where the worst of it is, could be repaired with public money then.
And we just had it done, the survey done a month ago.
Okay.
So it's a brand-new survey, and we can show that to you if you'd like to see it.
Okay.
It shows what's ours and what's private and what's public.
Oh, I would like to see that.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Would you send it to Elise and we could get it on our email?
Yeah, sure.
That would be very helpful. So you guys somebody's looking at that to possibly help you get in there and fix the constant, so it's...
Yeah, the cove itself is looking at doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some grant programs offered by the federal government that we're looking at, the big grant.
And y'all will come back to us if you need
There's some
help.
things we've been looking at trying to access, so.
That would be nice, I know.
Everything's on the radar, and we're trying to get as much assistance as we can.
That'd be, yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
I guess once you move along a little bit more, bring it up to us and, we'll see if we can help you on
Oh,
that.
absolutely,
Okay.
yeah, we'll have some more information on this probably about 2 months.
Okay, guys. Sorry to keep you all day.
All right.
All right. Government representatives.
Hey, how you guys doing today? Teddy Meyer, Parks and Rec. I just want to introduce, before I kind of go into our talk, Doug Batal. He's a new Parks and Rec director, so maybe if you got some time afterwards, you can introduce yourself and kind of chat with him a little bit. So, on our end, just really quick, I know we've got some time, just to let you guys know, last Friday, we were down at the FIND meeting and we presented 2 grants, the Volano Improvements Grant for $250,000, which obviously that's construction improvements, and then Palmetto for $20,000 design, so it's a matching grant, it's $500,000 for Volano, $250,000 from FIND, $250,000 from us, and then Palmetto's $40,000 design, $20,000 from us, $20,000 from FIND. Just as an update, there's 2 other projects, but they're not in the district, so not exactly the high priority. Next month, we're going back to the FIND meeting in Fernandina to request a grant application for a boat ramp, boat landing, launch master plan for the county. So that's kind of a big initiative that we're kind of undertaking with that waterway access I brought in before, and then obviously the Doug Crane project is part of that as well. And then the only other thing I had was that if you guys had any questions per the packet I think I submitted to you last month on Doug Crane.
My only question was, were we not going to vote on that at this meeting? Are you taking that to find us?
Well, I left it with you guys to talk and make a decision, and I was, obviously, we've kind of been here back and forth for quite a while, we've talked about it, and that was the most comprehensive package we could pretty much put together. So then at that point, I was going to leave it up to you guys to determine the viability and what you guys thought.
I had no questions. It looked good to me. I would make a motion to approve that. I don't know about you guys, if you've looked at it, or Mr. Rivers? Will second it?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
There you go.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right.
What'd you just approve?
Doug Crane,
That was a 75,000, wasn't it?
Improvements.
$75,000?
Okay, let's see. Anybody else from the government? Okay.
I'll be quick.
Okay.
Josh Underwood, Sheriff's Office Marine Unit. Just from last port meeting to this, 152 hours on the water, 76 calls for service. 21 warnings were issued for safety equipment missing, so one item of safety equipment they didn't have, they were given a warning. 12 tickets were written for violation of navigation rules or no life jackets, and 7 of those citations were written to shrimp boats for running at night with no lights.
Ooh.
We did random MSD checks. We did 18 with the Coast Guard, and they were all found in compliance. We had 1 resource citation for oystering in a restricted area by Volano Pier, and then we had 1 boating accident over the weekend on Father's Day with a 34-foot sailboat just outside the inlet on the South Shoal. They ran aground because they were running the South Shoal outside the red and green. He hit the ground, broke his keel off, the sailboat rolled, capsized, and all 5 members ended up in the water. They were picked up by Marine Rescue. That boat, as Commissioner Way saw outside of his house, was capsized adrift, headed towards the bridge.
What did it end up? I saw you guys all left, and I just saw the...
Well, we ended up trying to hook up to it, and we drug it over, and it's tied to the dolphins. The Coast Guard they've been working on it yesterday and today. They have Logan Diving Salvage working on it, and they're going to remove the boat.
That's tied up to the dolphins just north of the bridge?
Bridge, correct.
Mostly sunk, I think yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering what
it's total loss. But yes, it is sunk. Let's see. We had Operation FANG, which stands for Florida Air National Guard. It was a lights-out operation that we worked with the Air National Guard, Coast Guard, Customs and Border Patrol, FWC, and NOAA Fisheries. We had 12 voyage terminations during that week. Let's see. And one of those voyage terminations was a commercial boat for running with no lights and no safety gear. So the terminations were all done by Coast Guard on all those vessels. We have the 4th of July coming up with the fireworks, the safety zone, and then just following the 4th of July, that weekend, the 5th, 6th, and 7th, we have a nationwide operation, which is Operation Dry Water, to focus on boating under the influence. That's all I have.
May I ask just one question?
Yes, ma'am.
I notice this sounds stupid.
No, ma'am.
I don't drink often. Is it legal to drink while you drive a boat?
You can drink while you drive a boat, you just can't be under the influence beyond .08.
Okay, so you can have a beer, but you just can't be drunk. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. And that's where the majority of our boating accidents are from, boating under the influence. And the only other thing I got to leave you with is NavAid number 59 right at the inlet, the green one. It was hit yesterday. It's got substantial damage to it, and the Coast Guard's working on getting that fixed.
The green nav.
Green. It's right at the inlet at Porpoise Point. It's number 59. The only thing that's there is the base, so it's not lighted right now. And whatever hit it bent that metal base, the shape of a bow, so they hit it hard.
Yeah.
Driving under the influence, probably.
Probably. But that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody else? Let's see. Wait a minute, Steve.
I'm going to fly through it today, so don't worry, we'll meet our time. Steve Zukowski, Fish and Wildlife Commission, Lieutenant Patrol Supervisor for Coastal Flagler and St. Johns Counties. Apologize for not being here for a couple of months. I've been out on workers' comp, and I don't know if any representatives of FWC have been here, but I should be here from now on, since I'm in the rehab phase now. Boating and waterways. Reference DVs, all DV cases. There are no new ones. There are 8 of them that have been closed and are awaiting removal. Of those 8, 6 are down in the Crane Park boat ramp area, unofficial anchorage graveyard, so there's nothing new on those except they've been forwarded to City PD for removal on that. Boating accidents since the last meeting of significance, you just heard Sergeant Underwood there tell you about that sailboat coming in from from the south, so I take the shortcut and hit the shoal, and then it ended up where it was in ICW. You took, how many people off that? 4 people off that? Yeah, so 5, okay. The only other thing is we've had, since the last meeting, we had 1 DUI arrest. It was Officer Thomas and Officer Lawrence were down on patrol in the ICW near Devil's Elbow, and they had the boating under influence arrest. The boater refused to blow, so that was an addition. Refused to take the intoxilizer exam, and he was assessed a $500 civil penalty in addition to the first-degree misdemeanor. That has not gone to trial yet, or has been disposed of yet. Fisheries cases, mostly what's been going on, well, we had April and May, we have state waters are closed for recreational commercial fishing, shrimping. So that's probably why you haven't noticed any shrimp boats out, or maybe you didn't in April or May beyond within 3 miles. But also, cast netting for shrimp or recreational fishing is closed. And Officer Thomas and a few other officers, they went up to Iguana, and they made several cast netting for shrimping cases arrests back in the end of May on that one. So a bunch of people decided to cheat a little bit early, a few days, and they were caught up there. We've had a few also up at Iguana, redfish violations, either undersized or over the bag limit. Again, recreational cases, no commercial cases. Commercial shrimping now in the months of June, July, and August is open for night shrimping in state waters. So if you hear anyone complaining about or commenting on shrimp boats being right off the beach at night, they can do it during the months of June, July, and August. They can't the rest of the time. So we get calls on that also because people don't know the rules and the law on that. Federal snapper, the federal red snapper opening this year will be the 2 middle weekends of July. So more to report back on that depending on when the July meeting is. I think the July meeting, the first weekend will be over, and we'll see what goes on with that. Basically, federal waters, you can have 1 red snapper per day, per person, and there is no size limit. And yes, we have seen people with 8-inch red snappers. So, okay. And let's see. That's all I have. Is there any questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody else? Nope. Okay, public comment, anybody from the public? Nope. All right, comments by commissioners, Commissioner Way?
Yes, Chairman, I brought this up a while ago and I thought I'd bring it up again, is if we could restructure the meetings where the sheriff's department, fire department, all that stuff do their reports first, so they don't have to sit here for 2.5 hours.
Oh, they're having fun.
Well, I know most of the time. Well, I know, most of the time the meetings are pretty quick.
We pay their overtime.
Yeah, we could just do that at first, and then they can do their thing, and if they want to stay, they can stay. I just...
What do you guys think about it, law enforcement guys? You want to do that?
And I will tell you, none of them have approached me about this at all. I've seen it,
You don't want to hang out till 5:30, 6 o'clock? It's... Okay, at least just change it on the when we do the...
So what do you want? You want the officials to start first, before the old business and the new business?
Yeah.
They go from the bottom to the top.
Get them in and get them out.
Representatives will go number 6. Number 7.
I don't have the agenda.
Okay.
Why not?
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Next meeting?
Wait, I'm not finished yet.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, nothing for me, no.
Sandy?
I would just like, in addition to Mr. Way, if we could have the meetings on a day when the county was not meeting, because you can only go to, is this correct? You can only go to the county commission meeting at the same time we have ours?
No, I think the county meeting started around 5 o'clock or so.
No, is that,
6
Mr.
o'clock.
Meyer, is there no conflict for simply?
They start in the morning.
Okay, so there's no conflict. Okay, I don't know what never mind.
Okay. Next meeting?
The next meeting will be the 16th.
16th of July.
And then I'll have for you, which I will email in advance, your budget for the trim. So it'll either be the rollback rate or last year's rate, and you have to vote on that at the next meeting. So that will be top priority.
Got it. Okay. If that's it, we're adjourned. All right.